Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Lettuce Head Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Becomes King of Serpents? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Izuku Yagi was a sweet little boy born with green hair and brown skin. Izuku loved his sister Izumi and his mother and father Inko and Toshinori Yagi, who were simply business worker. Izumi took more after her father taking his white skin and blonde hair, while Izuku took more after Inko taking her brown skin and silk green hair. Izuku, Izumi and Inko sat in the doctor's office. The three were impatiently waiting for the results of Izuku and Izumi to see what type of quirks they may have. The doctor came into the room with a cart in his hands. Ms. Yagi, there's good news and bad news, which do you want first? The doctor asked. I'll take the good news, sir, Inko said, getting a nod. Well, Ms. Yagi, it seemed little Izumi had a mix or both you and your husband quirks. She'll be able to stockpile power to make her telekinesis stronger, the doctor said. That's so cool, Izumi. Izuku praised his sister, the same with his mother. Okay, but what's the bad news? Inko asked. The doctor sighed. This was one of the worst parts of his job. Little Izuku, what do you want to be when you grow up? The doctor asked. I want to be the next #1 hero, Izuku said, pumping his small fist into the air. The doctor took a long sigh. He really hated this part of his job. I'm sorry, Izuku, but the results show that you won't be able to have a quirk, the doctor said. Izuku dropped his All Might action figure as his eyes became a bit faded. Izuku didn't even notice that Inko had taken Izumi out of the office. Can you explain why? Izuku asked, his voice huskily. The doctor picked up an X-ray of Izuku and Izumi's foot. You see, kid, unlike your sister, you have an extra joint in your pinky toe, which caused the quirk factor not to develop, while your sister only has one, the doctor said. Oh, I see, Izuku said. Without saying any more, Izuku walked out of the doctor's office just in time to see his Inko drive off. Luckily for Izuku, the doctor's office wasn't too far away from his house. Izuku started walking home, which took an hour. Luckily his house door was unlocked as he walked inside. Izuku, where were you? Inko asked. Izuku stayed silent. Izuku, where were you? Inko said again. You left me, so I walked home, Izuku said. Slap. The sound of skin hitting skin ringed through the house. Izuku's face was turned to the left as a red handprint was imprinted on his face. Izuku looked to see his father Toshinori Yagi had hit him. Go to your room for lying, dinner for you, he yelled. Izuku ran toward his room but stopped at the door before making eyes contact with his family. I hate you all, he yelled as he slammed the door shut. Izuku cried himself to sleep watching All Might videos. Izuku wakes up to his stomach growling. He saw that it was late at night, so he decided to get something to eat. Izuku sneaked past Izumi and his parents' room and made some of the leftover food Inko had cooked. He sunk back into his room and started eating, but after he finished he heard a hissing sound coming from his window. Izuku walked toward his window and saw a small pool of water. He opened his window and climbed out. As he walked on his house grass, he avoided the cameras as he stood in front the water. A snakehead rose out of the water, but instead of being scared, Izuku placed his head on top the snake as it curled around Izuku's arm, only for him to feel pain. Izuku looked as the snake's fangs embedded themselves in Izuku's arms. A green liquid flooded into Izuku's arms as he passed out. Izuku woke up in his room breathing heavily. Was that a dream? He said, taking in much-needed air. His door was suddenly opened. Mom said get ready for school, his sister Izumi said. Izuku didn't respond. Instead he started getting dressed, taking a quick shower. Izuku made his own lunch, seeing his mother had only made Izumi's as he exited the house to see his mother had already left him. He to his school, which was a mile away. Izuku arrived in school an hour late. He quickly took his seat and started doing his work. Izumi group hour earlier. Izumi walked into her class. She had been worried about her brother since yesterday when her father had hit him. She walked toward her friends, who were Katsuki and Katsumi Bakugo, Shoto and Shoka Todoroki, Momo Yaoyorozu, Ochako Uraraka and Tenya Ida. Hey guys, Izumi said sadly. What's wrong, Izumi? Momo said. It's Izuku. He yelled at my parents yesterday. I think he's mad that he quirkless, Izumi said. The group gasped. Out of all of them, Izuku wanted to be a hero the most. What should we do? He still wants to be a hero and I'm scared for him, Izumi said as his eyes watered. Why don't we use our quirks to scare him, then he won't want to be a hero anymore, Katsuki said. The group agreed and decided to start their plan when school was over. Present third POV. School ended and the group went to go find Izuku. They found him sitting under a tree staring at his arm. Izuku was looking at 2 bit marks on his arms. It was strange to him. He had woken up from a dream and suddenly had 2 fang marks on his left arm. Izuku suddenly felt in danger as he wiped his head around to feel heat on his face. Izuku was blasted by an explosion against the cold bricked wall. He then suddenly felt a coldness cover his legs and arms as he was frozen in place. His eyes finally stopped spinning only for him to feel pain in his stomach. He threw up and looked to see his friends and sister getting weapons from his friend Momo. The group began to brutally beat Izuku with the weapons for what seemed like hours till the pain final caused him to collapse. The group left a beaten and blooded Izuku. Izuku woke up hours later. He saw that it was night but could barely move. From what he felt, his right leg was broke and so was his left arm. A few of his ribs were broken and a few of his teeth were bloodily on the ground and his head felt like something was broken. Izuku walked on his broken leg and limped his way home. When he arrived he saw that the door was locked, so he was forced to climb through his bedroom window, which was luckily unlocked. Izuku went toward his room's bathroom and soaked his aching body in hot water, soaking the pain away, but one thing stayed. The feeling of betrayal and the feeling of pain and anger that followed changed something within Izuku for better or worse. Izuku, age 14. Izuku sat on the rails of his school roof as blood dripped down his left arm and a bloody knife in his right hand. Izuku had resorted to hurting himself to keep himself from being driven insane. Izuku could sum up his life pretty easily with only 2 words: pain, suffering. I didn't help that his girlfriend Kyukajiru has cheated on him with a blonde-haired kid named Denki Kaminari right after he had been beaten down, but I wasn't that she had broken his heart, it was the way she did it. As he was stumbling to his feet, she pushed him down with her sound waves and kissed the guy right in front of him. Why? Because Izuku was quirkless. Izuku hated his life. He was short and skinny, his eyes were dark and cold, holding no emotion, his hair was spiky and messy reaching to his waist with 2 bangs framing his face, making him look like his father. Whenever he looked at anyone they would always get a blink emotionless face looking back in return. Izuku was lonely, a broken soul. He had no friends and anyone who did want to be his friends were only doing it to get close to his sister. The amount of beatings Izuku took that would often put him on death's door broke him mentally and physically. It was like death was just playing around with his broken soul. He would always come back beaten and bloodied, but did his parents care? No. As matter of fact, since being diagnosed as quirkless, Izuku has had to depend on himself. He learned to cook clean and he took a part-time good at a place animal enclosure. As a fact, Izuku loves his jobs, as his favorite part was that he was assigned to reptiles, his favorite being snakes. If anyone got to know Izuku they would know he loved snakes and reptiles. Izuku was also a bi-genius and was extremely gifted when it came to music and engineering, but no one cared to bat even an eye to Izuku, and because of the beatings Izuku was scared to show out. Izuku sat on the cold rail as it began to rain. His thoughts drifted as he thought about his pointless life. If I jumped, would anyone care? Would anyone even feel sad? Would anyone even be at my funeral? He asked himself as he dropped the knife, hearing as it hit the sides of the alleyway. Izuku could feel a shift in the breeze as it started raining hard. Izuku stayed where he was looking at the ground as water drops hit the ground. He had come to his decision. Izuku raised his body up so that he was standing on the rail. Izuku looked at the ground one last time before taking one step. He felt his body fall. He felt as the wind brushed past his face as time seemed to stop. Izuku could see everyone passing around him. It was peaceful as he felt he can finally be free, and with a large thud Izuku's body laid on the ground. Izuku felt immense pain. His ribs were shattered, he had a punctured lung and his skull was fractured, and it felt like something had pierced his brain. It didn't help that his head landed on the knife. He dropped as it stabbed deep into his stomach. Izuku cried, seeing that he couldn't even kill himself right. The one time he wanted the pain to go away, it didn't. It was like God and the devil were using him as an experimental tool. He slowly started to drift in and out of conscious, as the last thing he remembered was one again hearing the hissing sound he had heard long ago before seeing the same snake. Izuku woke up in wet swamp. He no longer felt any pain and felt peaceful. Izuku could see multiple trees and that the whole area was flooded with the water coming to his neck and vegetation everywhere. Izuku could see snakes floating on the water next to him, but they felt different, more powerful. Izuku wasn't afraid of the snakes as he raised his hand out the water, stroking the head of a snake. He felt a tugging feeling coming from his stomach. Izuku looked underwater at his stomach to see a chain attached to his stomach. The chain pulled Izuku, who was helpless against the pulling force, was dragged through the water. When the pulling stopped, Izuku was on a piece of land. He looked up and saw a giant sakura tree. Izuku dragged himself over to the tree as he sat down under a branch. "This is peaceful," Izuku says as multiple snakes slither around Izuku. Izuku felt the ground rumble as something came out of the water and stood in front of him. This was no snake, this was something else. It was giants, easily bigger than building. Its eyes were split and bigger than cars. It was covered in red and purple scars, with some being black. Its fangs were bigger than Izuku's whole body. Izuku was amazed by the sight of this beast. The beast stared at Izuku before leaning its head down to Izuku level. Izuku stuck his hand out as he rubbed the side of the snake's head. The snake seemed to like it as it nudged Izuku with its head. Izuku then realized this was the same thing which he had saw all those years ago. The snake grabbed Izuku into his mouth as it started moving to an island-like place. Izuku didn't try to stop the beast as he felt that same tugging. The snake stopped at a giant island bigger than countries as Izuku felt the same tugging. The snake spit Izuku out before stuck its tongue out, instructing Izuku on which direction to go. Izuku followed the snake's instructions as he walked as he found a green path. Izuku followed the path and walked through what seemed to be remnants of an old civilization. Izuku saw many statues of people with snake-like appearances. He was kinda creeped out seeing some looked like people but continue onward anyway. When Izuku stopped walking, he felt that tugging sensation again. Looking up, Izuku could see a castle. Izuku opened the doors as he could see the same statues of people with snake-like fractures again. Izuku kept following the pulling sensation as he made his way to what seems to be a throne room. Izuku opened the door as he saw statues of a man. The man was giants compared to Izuku, even compared to his idol, All Might. He was giant, standing a 9 foot tall. He was well-toned with monstrous muscles, his eyes were split, and just like the others he had a snake-like figure. Izuku walked close as he saw a stone tablet. Izuku picked up the tablet as he looked at the contents of the stone tablet. "We are an race descendant of dragons but ancestors of snakes. For those who can name, our race will be accepted as our next king and awake our ancient power for themselves. But only one can stand, a true king above all. For who every can say our name will be the true king." Izuku read the tablet as he thought descent of dragons but ancestors of snakes. Izuku's mind went to one mythology creature as he thought of one creature which has challenged even the gods. "Serpent," he said, his voice filled with confidence. The castle began to shake as the statue in front of Izuku started to creak to reveal a man with green hair, red spilt eyes. He wore ancient clothing similar to Rome kings. The man looked at the hollow of a person. Izuku was as he could see a bit of himself. "Hello mortal, it seems you are the next king." The man's voices filled with power behind it. "Wait, king, what do you mean king, and why mean?" Izuku asked in disbelief. "Well, you see, young one, this was a test to see if you would be able to awaken your power. You even being here is proof that you are our king and that he's been following you your whole life, seeing if you were ready," he said. Izuku looked to see that the same snake he had seen all those years ago was once again small. He looked at the bit mark it had given him and then back at the man. "So you're telling me that I'm supposed to be the king of an ancient race of serpents and that this little dude who turned out to be a really big dude had been following me around?" Izuku asked with disbelief and a bit of curiosity. "Yes, but you see, he had to make sure that you were king material. He's seen that abuse that you have taken as used that as proof that you are ready. Every king is given a test like that, but only you have suffered so much and only now decided to take your own life, and even at death's door while you were unconscious your body fought for survival, not allowing you to die," he said. Izuku chuckled a bit. "It's kinda ironic, and it reminds me of something I was told a long time ago. A person who never gives up will be rewarded, but a person who takes the easy will never amount to what the other could do," Izuku said. This caused the man to chuckle a bit. "Well, that's certainly true, my boy, but we'll have to train you. While I can sense the power of a king running through your veins, there are 3 other factions that could kill you, the man said. Let them come no matter what, I won't pass up this chance. As a fact, I'll become the best king there ever was, Izuku said. The man chuckled. Then you should start your training soon, another man said as he entered the room. This man was 7'3" shorter than the man sitting on the throne. He wore green armor. His armor was green with spiked shoulder blades in a square shape. His breastplate had a symbol of a serpent on it. His weapon was a shield with an lance. He had blonde hair with black eyes and a scar on his left. Hello, my name is Leon, and the man you are talking to is our current king Leviathan. He is the strongest king so far in history, Leon said. Not good with names, give me suggestions please. I wanted to keep a trend of males having names that start with L and females having more diversity. So now that you know our names, it's only fair if he know yours, Leviathan said. My name's Izuku. Izuku said. Well, Izuku, you shall start your training tomorrow then, Leon said. Izuku nodded. Well, Izuku, I know that you must be hungry, so how about you have dinner with us, Leviathan said. Izuku was unable to say no as his stomach growled. Izuku was brought to the dining hall as he found out all the statues were people. Izuku meet Leviathan wife Minerva. She had green hair with green eyes and an hourglass figure and was 6 foot tall, which Izuku quickly realized why Leviathan would pick her. Izuku also meet Leviathan daughter Medusa, who was his age. She had green hair, if you could call it hair, seeing that at the end there were snakes and deep green eyes. She was rather pretty and had the same developing curves. Her height was 5'6". Izuku took a liking to her, which didn't go unnoticed by Leviathan and Minerva, who were smirking devilishly. Izuku also meet Leon's son Levios. He had his father's golden blonde hair with black eyes. He was Izuku age, and his height was 5'10". Izuku also meet his little sister Akame, who was only 7. She had blonde hair with green eyes. Izuku also meet their mother Anna, who had blonde hair with green eye and was another person who will be helping in Izuku training. Once everything was over, Izuku looked at Leviathan. So, sir, how do I leave and how do I leave and how will I return? Izuku asked. Well, you can leave once you tell me how the human realm had changed, Leviathan asked. Well, you see, seeing you all had been stuck in stone, I'll have you explain that times have changed and people have developed supernatural powers, but unlike others, 20% of the world's population didn't acquire that power called quirks and are treated as trash and are discarded by society and mostly have badly lives or kill themselves to get away from the pain of their lives, Izuku said. The group were shocked learning about how much the world had changed and how the value of family had changed. Unfortunately, I was a part of the 20%, and due to that I was neglected by my family, and to make it worse, I've been being beaten by sister who has a quirk along with her friends. For the last 10 years I've been living in hellish nightmare and my parents seem to not care in the slightest, Izuku said. Izuku couldn't stop the flow of tears that were falling down his face. He clenched his knuckles as he wept, letting the shell he had then built up break down. Leon and Levios warped their arms around Izuku, letting him cry in their embrace. Izuku stopped as they could see a visible change. His hair was no longer covering his eyes. They saw as his eyes changed from black to a bright green. Izuku smiled as they saw his teeth changed. His teeth got a bit sharper as his canines looked more like fangs. Okay, Izuku, even though I know you don't want to go back, you have to just till you're strong enough to protect yourself here, Leviathan said. Izuku nodded. Leviathan took out a key as he placed it in Izuku's hands. What's this? Izuku asked with a bit of emotion in his voice. This is a portal key. I'll allow you to enter our world and allow you to leave. By using this key, a portal will appear allowing you to come in and out of our world. The portal will open up at any place you've been before as exit points. To leave and to use the key, just say open the door to the sea realm, Leviathan said. Izuku nodded. He smiled and waving back to everyone before opening the portal and leaving. Izuku appeared back in the alleyway he had tried to commit suicide in. He looked around and saw that it was still raining hard. He saw that he was no longer bleed and that his clothes were completely fine, and saw that the few cuts he had were being healed by the water. Izuku looked and saw that his phone was somehow not broken, and he was counting his lucky stars that his phone was waterproof. Izuku walked home. Luckily, he was only a few blocks away. On the way home, Izuku pulled a rubber band out from his school bag. Izuku uses multiple to style his long hair into a long 3-section ponytail. Izuku opened the door of his house to see Inko and Toshinori looking at Izuku but didn't even care. He could care less. He was completely drenched in water and it was late. He wanted to take a long bath and taking about all that's happened today. Izuku, start cooking. I'm hungry and don't feel like cooking, Inko demanded. Yeah, Izuku, it's getting late, so hurry and cook something, Toshinori added. Izuku's face went back to his stone-cold emotionless as he walked past the kitchen going straight to his room, pissing his parents off, but he didn't care. Izuku walked past Izumi's room. Her door was open and Izuku could hear that her friends Momo and Ochako must have been sleeping over as he heard them in the room. The three girls saw Izuku drenched in water, dripping wet. They wanted to talk to him but saw his cold eyes as he looked into the room before walking back toward his room. Izuku entered his room, locking the door as he used his bathrooms. He changed into his black shorts and a tank top. As he looked around his room, it was bare. He then turned his attention to the ceiling. Izuku felt something slithering up his arm. Being up his arm, Izuku saw that it was the same serpent that been looking over him this whole time. Izuku placed his arm on his stomach as the snake on his chest. I'll calm you, guardian, since you've been watching over me, Izuku said as he attached it head. He then faces the ceiling again. I guess this is my life now, he said before drifting off to sleep. Third POV. Izuku woke up a few hours after his parents go to work. Izuku had learned their schedule in order to avoid his family as much as he could. Izuku saw that it was Saturday. Izuku put on a normal black long-sleeve shirt and black long jeans and brought his book sack with a few extra backup cloth. He placed Guardian in his backpack and placed bandages over his hands up to his forearm. He also covered his torso, hiding all the scars he had gotten from his years of abuse. Izuku placed headphones in his ears as he started listening to music. Izuku exited his room as he couldn't help but smile the new life he was going to be starting. Izuku went into the kitchen as he saw Izumi and her friends seemed to not notice him. Izuku was happy that he had learned how to suppress his presence by watching snakes. The group only noticed Izuku when they heard Izuku start cooking. The group watched as Izuku seemed to be in a happy mood. His eyes were no longer there, cold and emotionless, but held a sense of happiness. Izuku also looked to have gotten a few inches taller but still short compared to them. Izuku finished making his pancakes as he sat at the table. Izumi and Momo walked over to Izuku thinking he had given up on being a hero. Boy, were they wrong. As soon as Izuku saw them, his eyes went back to their black emotionless state. His smile faded. Izuku didn't even let them get close as he got up and took his plate to his room, leaving them to stand there. We really messed up, Izumi said. We're doing this for his own good, Momo says, comforting her friend. Izuku finished his pancakes and put the dish on of desk. Izuku took the key out of his pocket. He turned the key as he said, open the gate to the sea realm. As he said this, a portal opened up. Izuku walked through the portal as he saw that he was back at the path toward the castle. The portal closed behind him. As Izuku walked toward the castle, he saw that all the statues of people were all moving and that the city was very lively. He pushed the doors open to see Leon and Anna waiting for him, along with Leon and Akame. I hope I'm not late, Izuku said. Nope, we just felt you enter the portal, so we came here a few minutes ago, Levios said. Okay, so where do we start? Izuku asked. Well, we have to see how much muscle you have on you. See, can you lift your shirt up? Anna said. Before I do that, Levios, can you take Akame to another room? I don't want her to see this, Izuku said with a serious tone. Levios nodded as he took Akame out of the room. Izuku was led into a closed room. Okay, Izuku, take your shirt off, Leon said. Izuku reluctantly took off his shirt, revealing his scared and abused body. Leon and Anna were enraged by what they saw. Izuku had multiple scars all over his upper body, from his chest, stomach, arms, and back were all littered with burned stabs, bruises. He had wounds that looked as if his body has been pierced through. You could clearly see that Izuku was unnourished due to home inhumanly skinny. Izuku, where did you get these and who did this to you? Anna asked. Her voice was shaky, holding back tears. Remember when I told that quirkless people are treated like trash? He said, getting a modded from both. Well, ever since I was 4, my sister and her friend would beat me to death door almost every day. The only reason I was able to come here was Dash. Izuku stopped himself from talking, not wanting his shield go collapse again. Was what? Izuku, you can tell us, Leon said. It was because I tried to kill myself. I couldn't take the physical and psychological abuse anymore. I just wanted the pain to go away, Izuku said. Izuku's shell collapsed, crumbling away for the second time. Year fell down Izuku's face as tears run down his face. Leon and Anna both warped their arms around Izuku, letting him cry in their comfort. Izuku, I don't know if you will accept, but we will need to change you DNA, Leon said. Wait, what, why and how? Izuku asked. Well, from the many years of abuse and the malnutrition, we'll need to change you cell toward they'll be serpent-like, making us your parents. Is that your body doesn't break? Anna said with a smile. The two were hugged by Izuku, who had a giant smile on his face. Of course I'll accept it. You've showed me more kindness than my family has in 10 years, Izuku said as tears of joy ran down his face. Okay, but first let's change your DNA, Anna said. Izuku nodded. Okay, turn around Izuku, Leon said. Izuku did that as Anna and Leon both placed a hand on his back. Izuku was startled by their cold touch but got over it. Serpent exchanged genetic swap, both said unison. Izuku's body began to glow as he felt immense pain all over his body. He felt his genes break apart and reconstruct themselves. He felt his heart enlarged as a second set of lungs grow in Izuku's body. Fish gills grow on the side of his face. He felt as his eyes burned, changing. He felt as his muscle structure broke apart and reforms in different places. If it wasn't for Izuku's high pain tolerance, he would have been screaming so loud he could be heard for miles away, but that didn't stop the painful groans to come out of his mouth and the painful look he had. When the pain stopped, Izuku fell to his hand and keens. He looked like a regular person who hadn't worked out and wasn't insanely skinny, but Izuku passed out due to the burning pain in his back. Leon and Anna took Izuku to one of the many bedrooms to rest as they explained everything they found out to Leviathan, Medusa, Levios and Minerva, who decided to up Izuku's staring training, as well as Levios and Akame being happy to have a new family member. Izuku's eyes fluttered open. He groaned as he felt pain in his new lungs, which had merged with his old ones, causing more pain in his chest. Izuku saw that he was in an unfamiliar room. He saw that his body had changed. He grew a few inches, as he could tell he was just a few inches shorter than Izumi. He wasn't just skin and bone anymore, instead he had the body of an average teen who hadn't worked out. He got up and was a bit wobbly in his set as he walked over a mirror. He placed his hands on his new gills on his face. The gills were more like small lines on his face. He examined his body a bit more before hearing the sound of the door click. He saw that his new mom and dad had walked into the room. Guess you're okay then, Anna said. Yeah, I'm a bit sore, but I'm ready to start training, Izuku said. Okay, good, because we'll start as soon as you put your shirt back on, Leon said. Izuku nodded, putting his shirt back on. Izuku made his way to a courtyard where Leon, Anna, Minerva, Leviathan, Levios, Akame and Medusa were all waiting. Izuku saw that there was a crystal ball floating in the center. Okay, Izuku, place your hands on the ball, Anna said. Okay, but what is it for? Izuku asked as he placed his hand on the ball. Well, this ball will let everyone see which magic elements you have. You see, every serpent has magic tuning through their vines, with everyone having a water affinity by blood, but some like me will be able to push it past its limits, creating ice, but there are other elements, and thus why you will be taking this test, Anna said. Now concentrate on the ball and think about something that would make you mad to draw out your power, Leviathan said, getting impatient, getting hit on the head by Minerva for making Izuku remembered that. Izuku closed his eyes as he thought about every beating he's received, every death threat, every time he was treated as a server. The rage that fueled Izuku awakened his power. His vines glow a violent blue as the ball glow. The ball was first covered in water, then frozen over in ice. Lighting was next as the ball crackled with electricity. Izuku opened his eyes and looked at the shocked faces around. It wasn't strange for serpentkin to have multiple elements, but it took years of training to awaken them, and he just did it in one go. Whoa, big bro, Izuku is so cool, Akame said, not understand how crazy this was. Levios had been trained for years and could hardly us his second element wind, but nevertheless he was happy for his new brother. Izuku was panting heavily. It seemed that we'll have to work on his stamina first, Leon said. Yeah, okay, Izuku, give up 20 laps around the castle. No, but no cuts, no coconuts, Anna said. Izuku stopped panting as he started running laps with Levios there for emotional support. I didn't help. The Izuku was given a 60-pound vest, making it more difficult to complete. The group could see that Izuku's body was slowly but surely getting accustomed to his new body and was slowly growing stronger. After around 2 hours, Izuku finished running 20 laps. He was drenched in sweat, his long hair ran down his face. Okay, Izuku, you're going to enjoy the next part, Anna said. Just as he said that as a giant bubble of water appeared. Now you're gonna be staying in here for an hour while trying to utilize your water ability to keep the bubble stabilized and get used to having gills, Anna said. Izuku wasn't given a chance to catch his breath as he was pushed into the sphere. His lunges burned as his lungs adapted to water. The sphere of water started to destabilize as it started to contract and expand randomly. Izuku felt the water unbalanced as it collapsed, making him fall onto the ground. Oh, sorry, I should have told you to clear your mind and focus on the water. It must have slipped my mind, Anna said, getting a response of angry mumbling from his new son which caused her to giggle. Izuku was put back into another sphere of water as he cleared his mind. He could feel the rotation of the water. He got used to breathing water as his body started to glow again. The sphere of water stabilized as Izuku was able to stay in the sphere for half an hour but collapsed soon after. Anna was impressed that he was able to stay in the sphere that long for his first try. Izuku was then put into a brutal and hellish workout regimen of 1,000 push-up, 1,000 set-up, 1,000 pull-ups, 1,000 squats, reps of 200 pounds, and he was forced to learn gymnastics to keep his body nimble and flickable for the serpent fighting style called Serpent Fist, which was a fighting style of quick and powerful strikes while being able to push your opponents into submission. Izuku was showed the basics of water by Anna. He was taught the basics of lighting by Leon and was given as exercise of making his body accustomed to the electricity. He was taught in weapon training by Levitation and Minerva, and was helped in his fighting by Levios and Medusa, while Akame was there for emotional support. After the first day, Izuku was barely able to stand up, was determined to keep his training up and never stop. Why? Because now he had people to believe in him and a new family. He laid on the ground exhausted. He could see the smiles on his new family's face. Izuku ate dinner with his new family and was given a room in Leon's castle which was bigger than his room with his old family. Izuku unfortunately had to leave and used his ki to teleport into a random alleyway close to his house. Izuku changed his clothes in the alleyway, putting on a black hoodie and black jeans, but while changing Izuku noticed that his manhood got significantly bigger. Izuku walked out the alleyway and started walking toward his house but bumped into a girl knocking over her books. Sorry, wasn't paying attention, Izuku said as he helped her pick up her books. Izuku noticed that the girl kept a blink face but not emotionless like his former face. Izuku noticed she was pretty cute but pushed it to the back of his head. Izuku and the girl separated as Izuku put headphones in his ear and started listening to music. Izuku walked through his form's house door. It was quite late and Izuku had 2 patches covering his gills. Izuku saw that his sister, Shoka and Katsumi were on the couch while Momo and Ochako were next to the table. Izuku, where have you been? Momo asked. Out, Izuku said. Mom and Dad said cook dinner for me and my friends tonight for our sleep. Katsuki, Ilda and Shoto are coming over too, Izumi said. The group perked up hearing that Izuku was cooking. He was in their book the best cook they knew. I'm tried and don't feel like it, so just order pizza or something, Izuku said as he started walking up the stairs. The group was shocked by Izuku's words. They knew Izuku was scared of them, or at least he used to be. Izuku walked into his room but walked back out as he placed his book bag down and grabbed his keys. Izuku grabbed his wallet before walking outside past Izumi group. Izuku walked toward a pet store before going to the front desk. Hello sir, how can I help you? The woman asked. I need a snake tank big enough for a snake this size, Izuku said as he showed a picture of Guardian. Guardian wasn't a giant snake, but he was still quite big and rather thick for a snake. The women took a while before giving Izuku a 50-gallon tank, which came with a special heater. Izuku paid for this and also brought a bunch some mice for Guardian to eat. Izuku took an hour to arrive back home and saw that the rest of Izumi group was already there and had burnt pizza, but he didn't care. Izuku walked past the group who were giving him strange looks and were following him, only got him to closer and lock his door. Izuku placed the tank next to his bed and placed Guardian inside, who quickly warped around the heater. Izuku placed a few mice in the tank which Guardian quickly ate. Izuku placed the rest in a food trap which would let a few out every few hours for Guardian to eat. Izuku placed a few blankets on top of Guardian before pushing the tank under his bed. Izuku took a shower before laying in a black tank top on his bed and slowly drifting off to sleep. Third POV. It's been around 9 months since Izuku started training with his new family, as everyone has noticed that Izuku has changed a lot. His intelligence has skyrocketed due to the Sea Realm quickly growing technology and Izuku finally taking off his mask and showing his smarts. He had a massive growth spurt, now standing at 5'10" foot tall. Izuku's personality changed, that he was no longer the shy, emotionless kid who would let anyone walk over him. He was now the confident kid who no longer let everyone over him anymore. He had learned a lot about his new family. He learns that Leviathan has troubled past just like he and could relate to much of Izuku's struggles. He learned that Minerva had originally been a slave who was saved by levitation. He learned that Leon and Leviathan meet as war partner and became like brother. He learned that Levios was a super anime fanboy and that he had gotten Akame to become a fangirl, but most importantly he learned that Medusa had a kink for muscles and scars shown when she would always be Izuku with putting on his bandage, and whenever she would spar against him alone she would always get horny or turned on. Everyone was in the gym since today was a fitness test that everyone has to take. Izuku, like every other boy, had to wear a tank top, but Izuku had a shirt made of bandaged on under his shirt. Lucky Izuku's legs never took damage or he was going to have an awkward moment. Girls and boys stared at Izuku, girls with lust while boys with envy. The first test was a push-up where everyone had to do at least 20 push-ups in a minute. Because of Izuku's new heights and weight he was picked first. The female gym teacher called on Izuku. "Okay Izuku, you have 1 minute to do as many push-ups as you can," she said. Izuku nodded before winking at the teacher, causing her to blush. "I bet he can't even 5 push-ups," Katsuki says, getting Izumi group to laugh. The group were then dumbfounded when Izuku did 300 push-ups in a minute, and Izuku continued to surprise them with speed that surpassed Ilda and strength that matched Izumi with her quirk. Katsuki was getting pissed off at Izuku's new strength. He yelled as he grabbed Izuku's wrist. "What do you want, Katsuki?" Izuku says. "How did you so strong? Tell me, loser," he yelled. It's called working out. Maybe if you did that and calmed the F down people would like you," Izuku said, giving him a cocky smirk. Everyone was taken aback by Izuku's words as some people began to laugh. "I'll kill you, Deku," Katsuki says as he throws an explosion toward Izuku. Izuku ducks under the explosion as he punched Katsuki in the gut. He then went behind Katsuki and put him in a chokehold. Izuku turns around with Katsuki using him as a human shield to avoid a kick from Ilda which landed in Katsuki's stomach. "F, you four-eyed F dash," Katsuki yelled. Izuku let go of Katsuki as he began running, being chased by Izumi gang. Izuku heard the end of the day school bell. He smirked as see the crowds of students rushing to get out of their classrooms. Izuku gets mixed up in the crowd, losing Izumi gang as he exits the school. Izuku goes into a random alley as he uses his ki to teleport to Sea Realm, dropping into his room in Leon House. His room was colored blue and green with a large bed and a few dresser. The Serpents had found a way to connect with the human realms and was able to have television in the Sea Realm, but eventually made their own but kept anime. His room has really big, having a few guitars on the wall. His dresser had pictures he had took with his new family on the desk while he had an computer and a Xbox Series X. Izuku's room also had a shower. He goes taking a shower and putting new bandages, and in taking of his school clothes putting on a black long-sleeve shirt with black pants and red shoes. Anna walked into Izuku's room with Leon. "Hey Dad, hey Mom, is it time for training?" Izuku asked. "Training is cancelled for the next week. We want you to get used to your new powers and your body, so only do light exercise," Leon said. "We came here to give you this," Anna said as he held a black container. "What's this?" Izuku asked. "Well, this cream will help you cover up your scars so that you don't have to wear long sleeves shirts when it's hot as F dash," Leon said, getting hit on the head by Anna. "No swearing in front, Lance," she said in a demanding voice, causing Izuku and Leon to shiver. "Wait, who's Lance?" Izuku asked. "Well, we were planning for it to be a surprise, but we've chosen Lance as your serpent name," Leon said. "I love," Izuku said as he pulled his parents into a hug which they replicated. Izuku took of his long-sleeve shirt and applied the cream. To his surprise it made his scars disappear, but he did felt a slight burning sensation. "So how long will this last till I have to reapply more?" Izuku asked. "Well, it will last for a month before you have to apply more," Nana said. "Cool, and I was also wondering if Levios and Medusa could come to the human world to have fun," Izuku asked. "I don't see why not as long as they agree, Lance," Leviathan said, entering the room with Minerva. Okay, I'll go ask them thanks, Izuku says, putting on a heartwarming smile as he exited the room. He was happy to be called by his serpent name. That boy really has grown on us, Minerva says. Yes, he has, the others say in unison. Izuku walked down the halls of Leon Palace. Since he wasn't in Leviathan's, he knew here to find Levios. He walked to Levios' room and knocked on the door. Come in, Levios said. Izuku walked in to sees Akame laying on Levios' bed while Levios is watching anime. Yo, wanna hang out in the human world? Izuku asked. Hell yeah, I can get more of these things called manga, Levios yells. Okay, chill, we'll go to a party and we still have to ask Medusa if she's coming, Izuku says. Coming where? Medusa asked, coming into Levios' room after hearing Izuku's voice. Izuku, or should I say Lance, wants to take us to the human world, Levios said. I'm in, she says. Cool, I'll be back in 2 hours. I'm going to get ready and get a haircut, Izuku says before teleporting into an alleyway near a mall. Izuku decided to buy some new cloth and hair razor and clippers to cut his hair and things for his instruments. Izuku shopped for a few hours before heading home. Izuku opened the doors to his home to see his old family along with the Bakuga twins with their parents, Todoroki twins with their family Ochako, Ilda, Momo, and as a new addition Jiro and her new boyfriend Kaminari. The group of adults looked stunned not have seen Izuku in a few months. They saw that the skinny short boy had changed to the buff 5'10" tall boy. They noticed that Izuku tied his hair in a spiky ponytail now with his two bangs framing his face. His eye had a certain glow in them showing pure happiness, and the smile on his face caused Akioka to get jealous looking at how scrawny Kaminari was. Hey Izuku, what's got you in a good mood? Mitsuki asked. Oh well, me and a few friends are going to hang out tonight, so I'm going to go get ready, Izuku says. He ran up the stairs into his room, locking the door behind him. What friends are he going with, Izumi? Inko asked. I don't know, for a few months now Izuku hasn't been coming home with me after school and sneaks out and comes home late at night when you guys are at work. He even sometimes doesn't come back for days at a time when you guys are gone for a long time, Izumi said. It seems we need to talk with Izuku, Toshinori said. The adults in the room nodded while a few felt something else was in play but pushed it to the back of their heads. Izuku room. Izuku sat his cloths he was wearing out in his bed with was black jean with white chains attached to the pockets, black V-neck, black leather jacket with black fingerless gloves and black sunglasses. He had brought this because he was invited to a party by a girl who told him the theme was biker gangs. Izuku sat in front the mirror in his room as he had a pair of hair scissors in his hand. He started cutting his hair as when done he plugged in the clippers and started shaving his hair. When Izuku was finished he had an amazing and well done undercut which really suited him. Izuku noticed that it has been an hour since he started. He quickly took a shower before putting on his cloth. Izuku put on a black muscle V-neck with a black leather jacket with black jeans with white chains attached, black fingerless gloves with spikes on the top. He added a black bandana along with a necklace of two snakes warping around a sword and also put on a pair of black and red Air Jordans retros and black looped earrings. Izuku covered his ears with a blue Beat headphones with a lighting bolt on each side, but before leaving his room he picked up his guitar and a microphone just in case, but before he left he put more mice in Guardian's feeder and placed a few more blankets on his body. Izuku made his way downstairs to see that everyone was still downstairs. He soon saw that everyone was looking at him. Izuku, you look great, Fuyumi, Todoroki said. Oh thanks, Izuku said, rubbing the back of his head. So Izuku, who's the lucky girl? Natsuo said. Izuku blushed madly more than he would ever blush for Jiro fueling her jealously. It's not like that, we're just friends, that all, Natsuo, Izuku says, stuttering. Izuku, why are your ears pierced? Inko said. I got my ears pierced a few months ago. You and him signed the papers, Izuku said. Well, I don't like it, so take them off, Inko said. No, I brought them, so you can't make me, Izuku said. The group of people tensed at Izuku outburst. What happened to you? You used to be a sweet little boy, Inko said. Izuku started laughing. Okay, if you know me, what's my favorite color, my favorite ice cream, and what is my favorite animal? Izuku asked. That easy, your favorite color is yellow, you like cookie dough ice cream, and your favorite animal is rabbits? Inko said in a matter-of-fact tone. Wrong, my favorite color is green, my favorite ice cream is cookies and cream, and my favorite animal is snakes. All those things you listed were Izumi likes, not mine, Izuku said, his voice holding a little sadness which was blocked out by the overwhelming amount of anger. Izuku didn't give Inko time to all or anyone else for the matter as he walked out of the door slamming it behind him. Inko fell to her knees as she started sobbing. "I'm a terrible mother," she said. "No, you're not, he's just mad. 'Cause he's quirkless," Toshi says. "No, he wasn't. If he was mad because of that he would talk to me." "No, you two are terrible parents. I'll have talked with him when he comes back," Torino said. Everyone else in the room was silent as Inko went to her room to sob. Izuku had just left his house. He walked down the streets, walked until he walked into an alleyway. He used his key to teleport into the sea realm. He appears in his room where Levios and Medusa were waiting. Medusa was wearing a short black dress with spikes around the trim, a black half-shirt with a half-leathers jacket with a black half-shirt showing off her well-toned stomach, black heels and fingerless black gloves and black glasses. She had red lipstick on and black eyeshadow. Levios was wearing a black V-neck with black baggy pants and a black leather jacket with spikes on the edges. "Ready to go?" Izuku asked. Both nodded as Izuku took out his key and teleported the group a block away from a store. Third POV. Izuku, Medusa and Levios walked into a mansion which was decorated with many birthday signs and loud music playing. "Izuku, where are we?" Levios asked. "We're at a party for a guy named Johnny. It's his birthday," Izuku said. "I see. I wonder what inside," Medusa said. The group walked inside to see multiple people dancing and having fun. There were people with all different types of appearances. Levios and Medusa were interested in finding out what other humans like Izuku looked like, but now they know. The group went out into the dance floor where Izuku and Medusa stared dancing while Levios started dancing with a brown-hair girl. Izuku and Medusa Levios kept dancing till the songs ended and Johnny was in front of a ring. "Okay people, for everyone who thinks they're strong, we're going to be having fights, but these fights will be broadcast on national TV for everyone to see. We have pro heroes here to supervise the fights, so for everyone who wants to fight, sign this safety waiver and get a number," Johnny said. Izuku decided to fight. He signed the waiver. He was given a fighting number of 4. A camera crew as they started filming. Yagi household POV. The Yagi along with the Bakugus and Todorokis along with Torino and a few of Toshinori, which were the pro-hero Eraserhead and the principal of UA, who were there to review the recommendations of Izumi, Shoto and Shoka, while Toshinori friend David Shield and his daughter were there to see if Izuku can join their researching team, seeing Izuku insane spike in intelligence. Inko then turned the channel to a special show that was coming on for one night, which, as she turned the channel, the group say a teen in a black suit. "Okay ladies and gentlemen and all viewer Todi, we have many fights prepared for everyone today. As your host, my name is Johnny, and for the first fight can we have numbers 3 and 4 come to the area," Johnny said. Izuku POV. I look at my number to see I have 4. I walk to the stage as I see who I'm fighting. He was 7-foot tall with red bird wings, red eyes and long red hair. He was wearing shorts with black gloves. I walked toward the corner with my number as 2 people were there. "Gloves or bandages?" he asked. "Bandages," I replied. He warps my hand in bandages. I then took of my black leather jacket, then my shirt showing my well-toned 8-pack and defined muscles. I look at the crowd to see some of the girls with nosebleeds while Medusa's face was blushing madly. I smirk before blowing a kiss her way, which caused her to look away blushing while Levios falls on his side laughing. "Let's see people who will win this fight. This is a no-holds-bar fight with quirks allowed. The fight stops when someone is knocked out, give up, or is thrown out of the ring," Johnny said. A bell is then rung as Izuku and the other guy walk toward each other. I got into my fighting style I created. It had the flexibility and movement of Serpent style but had more of a boxer style in it. I started to do short jumps up and down, getting my legs ready as my opponent did the same. Me and my opponents stared each other down as we started to circle each other. Eventually the redhead got impatient and started throwing punches toward me. My fighting style made me look like I wasn't even ready, but to the surprise of most I easily dodge every strike. I continued to dodge each and every hit as my opponents got more and more angry, increasing the pace of each attack but failing to land any. I kept my eyes focused on each punch. Eventually the guy overshot one of his punches and that was all it took. With blazing speed I blitzed past his guard and landed a devastating haymaker to the guy's face, bashing it in and breaking his nose. As his body hit the ground it bounced back off the ground from the force. I stood there looking over his body and as I turned around, but my sharp sense told me to jump to the left. Quickly jumping, I was able to dodge a sword strike from Yengai. It had seemed that he used his quirk to make a fire sword, but something didn't seem right. I could sense magic coming off him as his hand were set ablaze with fire. I turned my attention back toward him as he began another full-on assault toward me. I was barely able to keep up with his destructive sword slashes. Even though I wanted to use my magic, I knew that my secret would be out, or at least everyone would think I had a quirk, but it seemed he was trying to kill me. I lose focus and he used this, landing a powerful punch into my midsection. My body was launched backward, but before I could adjust myself, he grabbed my leg and started repeatedly bashing my body side to side like a helpless rag doll as the crowd cheered. I was able to see that the heroes that were supposed to stop the match were being paid to not intervene. My blood boiled as I looked to see Medusa on the verge of tears and Levios being helpless to break the grip of at least 20 guys barely holding him down. My opponents throw me into the ground before stomping my stomach and kicking me into the iron bar fence as my body fall toward the ground. I cough up a mouthful of blood as he grabbed me by my hair and brought my ear to his mouth as he whispered into my ear, "Now that I've beaten you, I'll be taking that pretty girlfriend ox yours," he said. This got my blood boiling. Third POV. Izuku opponents turned around thinking that he had won, only to feel killing intent and an icy feeling behind him. Izuku stumbled, got up holding his left side. A shadow cased across his face, body started glowing and a red and blue aura surround him. The wind around Izuku started to pick up, forcing everyone to guard themselves. The cameras zoomed in on Izuku's face to get a chilling discovery. His eyes were blood red with black splits. The glow around his body started to reshape around his back and hands. When the glowing stopped, Izuku had razor-sharp claws and had a 10 feet long and 4 feet thick long reptilian tail was attached onto his body. Izuku looked directly at his opponents with a death glare. Izuku stood up straight before extending both his hand out as one crackled with lightning as the other was covered in ice. As he walked forward, the ground under him froze. Before the guy could attack, Izuku vanished and reappear with his fist lodged inside the guy's stomach. His body was sent flying backwards as his body bounced off the gate, only for Izuku to jump kick into his chest. Izuku grabbed the guy's leg before spinning him with one arm. He then added lighting to the spinning, cashing the guy to look like a blur. The guy ignited his body, trying to get Izuku to let go, only for Izuku to cover his hand in ice. Izuku spent the guy around for a while, a few seconds more, before throwing the guy into the air and vanishing and reappear, giving the guy a devastating lighting and ice-infused punches directly to his skull, causing him to be cratering him 6 feet deep. Izuku then disappeared and reappeared next to Levios, blowing the multiple guy off him. He grabbed Levios and Medusa arms before vanishing again. Izuku reappear a mile away from the party. Both yell as they tackling Izuku into a hug, which he warped his around both. "Let's go home now," Izuku said. The two nodded as Izuku used his ki to teleport into his room in Leon Castle. The three landed on his bed as Levios got up. "I'll go tell Mom and Dad," Levios said. Izuku and Medusa nodded as he walked out the door. "You idiot, what if you had gotten hurt or worse died? What would I do?" Medusa said as tear ran down her face. Izuku warped his arms around her as he pulled her close into his chest, which she started hitting with her chest. "Listen, I'm sorry, Medusa, I won't die. Wanna know why?" Izuku whispers into her ear. "What idiot?" she replied, still having tears in her eyes. "Because I love you too much to leave you alone," Izuku says. Medusa grabs both sides of Izuku's faces as she smashes her lips together with Izuku. The two enjoy a passionate kiss together. Both broke apart when they heard the door open. Both were blushing messes as they held hands. Leon and Anna were informed about everything and told Levitation and Minerva. They decided that Izuku should go home and sleep with Guardian. Izuku ate dinner with his new family and girlfriend. Before Izuku left, Levitation and Minerva called him outside. "Izuku, you have our blessings to date our daughter," Minerva said. "But if you ever break her heart, we'll break you," Levitation and Minerva said, their voice deep and demonic. "Noted," Izuku said as he tried not to run away. Izuku left soon after, a few blocked away from his home. Earlier Yagi household. The member of the Yagi family and friends were all incomplete and other shocked, transformed, activating some strange quirk and completely kicked that guy's ass, then teleported away. "Since when did Izuku have a quirk, Mom?" Izumi asked her mother. I don't know, but let's ask him about it when he get home, Toshi said. It's clearly obvious that he didn't want to show off his quirk, Aizawa said. Oh come, David asked. If he wanted to he would have used as soon as that other guy used his, so I suggest not pressuring him. Nizu said. The group agreed to ask Izuku, but Nizu and David installed a few cameras in Izuku's room to monitor him. The large group of people waited at least 2 hours till they heard the front door. Click. Izuku third POV. Izuku walked through of his home. His guitar had been destroyed while fighting. He sighed as he walked through the door. He saw his family, their friends and his uncle David and his daughter Melissa. Yo, was all Izuku said as he started making his way upstairs. Izuku, can we talk? Inko asked. Izuku sighed. Fine, he replied as he walked back downstairs. What do you want to talk about? Izuku asked. Izuku, do you have a quirk? Toshi asked. This is what got everyone attention, wanting to know if he would lie or tell the truth. Nope, I'm as quirkless as they come now. Can I go? Izuku asked. The group were surprised that Izuku would lie and so easily. Izuku went back into his room as the group connected the camera to the TV downstairs. Izuku locked his door as he grabbed some cloth and took a shower. Izuku walked out the shower shirtless as he pulled out Guardian's take, which shocked the group that a snake that big has been living there. Guardian slowly slithered onto Izuku's bed as it curled up onto of Hitmaster's bare chest. Izuku then explained his whole day to Guardian in detail, which further proved the group point that Izuku had some sort of power. Izuku looked up at the ceiling as he slowly drifted off to sleep. The large group of people left the Yagi house as Inko, Toshi and Izumi sat in the living room. What should we do about Izuku? Inko asked her husband. We should give him space till he's ready to tell us, Toshi said. Izumi left to her room as her parents talked a bit more while she went to her room. She wanted to repair her relationship with her brother but didn't know how. She connected her friends who all decided to give up on bullying Izuku as she drifted off to sleep. Third POV. It's been a month since that party went horrible wrong. The heroes and some of the fighter along with Johnny were arrested for turning a blind eyes to attempted murder. Izuku woke up to Guardian biting his neck. Izuku took a shower and applied the cream to cover his scars. Izuku also made a clone to pack up his thing and teleport them to his room and Leon Castle. Izuku walks over to his bed and pulled out Guardian's tank from under his bed before giving him a few mice to eat. Izuku rubbed Guardian's head as he slithered into Izuku's backpack before cutely poking its head out. So I guess you're coming with me? Izuku asked, knowing the answer. His snake companion responds, warping itself around his waist. Izuku went into the sink and washed the dirty and blood off Guardian. Once finished, Izuku puts on a long-sleeve black shirt with black jeans and his serpent necklace he so very loved. Izuku placed on his shoes and quickly left his room. Izuku waked downstairs, ignoring his sister friend group. Izuku walked outside as he walked into an alleyway as he used his key to teleport. As Izuku walked toward the castle, he remembered what he was told by Minerva and levitation. Flashback week after fight. Izuku sat in the dining room in Leon Castle. Levios to his right with Akame to his left. Medusa sat in front of her while Minerva sat to her right and Anna to her left as she sat apart from Izuku. Leviathan and Leon sat at both ends of the table across from each other at the ends of the table. Izuku, or should I say Lance, we've decided that after what happened after that fight that Levios and Medusa will be accompanying you while you attend UA. They're also something we're going to be explaining something to you, Leviathan said. Izuku was then given a long and detailed about serpent history. He learned that serpents were one of 6 noble races. The others being wolves, who were overly prideful, the bears who were incredibly lazy, the giants who specialize in enlargement magic, the phoenixes who are enemies of the serpents, then there were the fairies who were more or least sideline, only joining in wars when directing affected. Izuku also learned the Medusa was now his mate and that he must now protect her no matter what. He was also told that Medusa will be his queen and that once Izuku surpasses Leviathan and gets the people recognition, he will succeed the throne. He also learned that he was finally strong enough to live in the serpent world. And a flashback. Izuku was finally arrived at Leviathan Castle as he saw Levios and Medusa. Both were dressed like Izuku in all black. Izuku teleported the group a few blocks away from UA. Izuku and Medusa were holding hand, blushing as Levios teased both of them. When the group arrived at UA, they were shocked at how big the building was. The group walking into the testing room. Izuku sat next to Medusa with Levios to his right. "Okay, tester, are you ready?" the loud head present mic said, getting silent in return. Tough crowed. "Well, anyway, as I'm going to explain the test," he said. As 4 silhouette of 4 robots appeared. Each robot will give you a certain amount of .1 pointer. Having 1, 2 pointer having 2 and 3 pointer giving you 3 point, Mike said. Then of course Ilda had to say something. "So there no 4th robot on the guild," he said. Izuku got pissed and decided to say something. "Hey dumbass, if you have let him finish he would have told you that the 4th robot is an obstacle and give no points, so instead of being a dumbass and interpreting, sit down like a good little boy and have a lollipop," Izuku said, saying the last part in a mocking tone. The testing area bursting to laughter, with even the teachers laughing, while Ilda glared at Izuku, vowing his revenge only to get a wave off bloodlust his way, making him piss himself and cower in fear. After that explanation, Izuku an entrance test, which Izuku used Medusa telepathy abilities to help them cheat. They was given a test area and was placed in the same area as Medusa and unfortunately Izumi and Ilda. Izuku and Medusa were both slightly talking. Izuku removed his hoodie and warped it around his waist, leaving him in a sleeveless black shirt which showed off his muscles. Medusa blushed and drooled a bit seeing Izuku muscles, though she did want to see his scars. Izuku saw Medusa and smiled as he talked into her ears. "Don't worry, I'm all yours when you ready," he quietly whispered into her ear. Medusa blushed before facing ahead. Izuku allowed Medusa to compose herself before both walking toward the front. Ilda thought of stopping them but was too afraid of Izuku, while Izumi looked to what she thinks to be a couple flirt. She was currently think about what she was told by her parents. Flashback. The Todoroki family, the Bakugo family, along with Ilda, Momo and Ochako sat in front. Inko and Toshinori Yagi. "Okay Inko, why did you invite us over to talk?" Mitsuki asked. "Well, it's been over a month and Izuku still hasn't told us about his quirk, so I've decided after the entrance exams we'll confront him about it," Inko said. The group of adults agreed while the children went into Izumi's room to talk. "Hey guys, I think we should stop bullying Izuku," Izumi said. The females of the group agreed while the boys had alternate ideas but nevertheless lied. Present. The doors of the exam opened. While everyone else stands still waiting, Izuku and Medusa bursted off using lighting to enhance their speed as they both destroying a 3-pointer. "What are you waiting for? Get there now, counts down in battle start like those two," he said as everyone began running into the test area but were already behind Izuku and Medusa. Izuku and Medusa weren't going after any robot in particular. The two just destroyed any robot that going into their sight, gaining points higher than everyone. Monitor room. The heroes were watching the many group of examiners. "Looks like we've got a good batch this year," said the pro hero. Snipe said. "Especially that group," Aizawa said. The screens changed to Izuku, Levios and Medusa. Izuku was just walking as a trail of ice followed him, with spikes raising out of the group, impaling any robot that gets within 5 meters of him. It was kinda sicking as there was just a graveyard of destroyed robots. The next one they looked at was Levios, who was slicing robots' head of and looked bored doing it. Next was Medusa, which really sent chill down the teacher's spine. Medusa used her snakes to turn the machines into stone and destroy them with lighting attacks. Author: I know in mythology it only works on people who look into her eyes, but it's not so. Yeah. The teachers were all wonder about those student. Nizu pull up those 2 files and all nights and GT Sun 2, Aizawa asked. The screen then changed to a file of Medusa, Izuku and Levios. Name: Medusa Apep. Age: 15. Quirk: Serpent Queen. Relatives: Father: Leviathan Apep. Mother: Minerva Apep. Name: Levios Serpentine. Age: 15. Quirk: Serpent Royal Knight/Element Manipulation. Relatives: Father: Leon Serpentine. Mother: Anna Serpentine. Younger sister: Akame Serpentine. Twin brother: Izuku Serpentine. Name: Izuku Serpentine. Age: 15. Quirk: Serpent King Candidate/Element Manipulation. Relatives: Father: Leon Serpentine. Mother: Anna Serpentine. Twin brother: Levios. Younger sister: Akame Serpentine. The group looked at the information but 2 were shocked. Nizu, I think the information is wrong. His name is Yagi and his sister is Izumi. His doesn't have a brother and his parent named 2GT said. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm not wrong. A few months ago he changed his information. You'll have to ask him about it later, Nizu said, but he had an idea that something else was to do but pushed it to the back of his head. Exams. Izumi had been trying to focus on herself but couldn't. She kept trying to catch up to Izuku, but he far stronger in every aspect. Izumi felt the ground rumble as many students started to push past her. She looked up to see a giant robot. She ran but heard a scream for help. Looking back, she saw a random student about to be crushed. She frozen in fear as she looked at the robot about to crush the student, but the robot began to turn to stone. She looks over to see the girl who was talking to Izuku turn the robot to stone as Izuku ran up the arm and destroyed it with a lightning-infused punch. She was useless and was going to let a person die, but her brother, who she bullied for years, just helped save a person when she was too afraid to move. Okay, the test is over, please exit the exams, Mike said. Izumi walked toward Izuku, grabbed the snake hair girl, and start walking. Izumi followed the two as she meet up with her friends who hid behind a corner listening to their conversations. So you guys ready to go, or are you two gonna go kiss again? Levios said. Shut up, both yell at him as he laughs. The three of them go into an alleyway where they teleport away. Izumi group walking into the alleyway only to see a flash of light before noting. The group decided to go to Izumi house as she entered her room to wait for Izuku, but he never came home and his room was empty. She told her parents, who called the cops but weren't able to look for Izuku since he changed his parents. Third POV. Izuku woke up in his room within Leon Castle. Izuku felt something heavily on his chest. He looked down to see guardians had grew slightly in size and have become heavier as he rested on Izuku's chest. Guardian eyes opens as he slither off his owner onto a heat rock next to Izuku bed. Izuku reluctantly got out of his bed as he enters his shower. After shower, Izuku put on his school uniform but loosened his tie and undid the tip bottom. Izuku exited his room to see Levios had his uniform the same way. Both smirked at each other before going toward the dining room where Anna, Akame, and Leon waiting for the two. Both sat down where Anna put a plate of pancakes. Leon began to scarf down his pancakes, which led to Izuku and Levios doing the same, which caused Akame to following in their footsteps. Anna looked at the group in a bit of disgusted, but she was happy that they loved her cooking so much they ate it like wild lions on a hungry day. Anna ate her pancake in a more civilized manner than the rest of her family. Izuku/Lance and Levios waved as they walked off toward Leviathan's castles to get Medusa. Unfortunately, Medusa took 2 hours to get ready. Izuku blushed at his good she looked in a uniform. Medusa gave Izuku a kiss on the lips, which Izuku replicated. Can you two not do that in front of me? Levios asked. The two blushed but quickly calmed down, taking hand. Ready to go? Izuku asked. Both nodded as Izuku took out his key and teleported them away. The group reappeared in front of Yue Lucky on the other side of the gate, which had just closed. I suggest you kid hurry. If the gate's closing, you only have 5 minutes left to get to class, the gatekeeper said. Class 1A POV. Aizawa had just risen out of his sleeping bag and was about to explain the quirk test but stopped when he heard multiple fast footsteps. Bursting through the door, the class could see Izuku, Levios, and Medusa panting heavy. Damn it, Medusa, pant, why did you take 2 hours to get ready? Levios said between pants. Medusa grumbled under her breath while Izuku scanning the class. It seems you three are late. Extra homework, Aizawa says. The three grumbled. Okay, now that everyone put these uniforms on, very going to be doing a quirk assessment test, Aizawa says. Wait, what about orientation? Ochako said. She wasn't expecting a quirk test seeing that she barely survived the entrance exams. Here at UA, the teachers are allowed to teach the student however they feel. Now put these on and go, Aizawa says. The students began to change while Izuku, Medusa, and Levios began to leave. Wait, you guys are listening to him? A red-haired teen asked. Yeah, he is the teacher after all, so he's in charge, Levios says with Izuku and Medusa nodding. I likes you three already, Aizawa says. What a grin. The class then exits going into their respective changing rooms. Boys' locker rooms. Izuku and Levios both walk into the changing room, completely ignoring everyone. As both began to change, Izuku didn't notice, but one of his smaller scars didn't get covered. The scar was a straight line going down from Izuku's armpit and was caused when one of Ilda's kicks caused one of Izuku's ribs to break and pierce his skin. Izuku tried to change as fast as he could and Levios tried to cover Izuku by standing in front of him, but someone still saw. "Whoa dude, what's with the scar?" the same redhead asked. Izuku looked at the scar, remembering of the beating he received. He then looked to Ilda, Shoto and Katsuki, who had a cocky smirk on their face. Izuku didn't know it, but his anger of affecting every serpent, giving them all a bloodlust to kill the three, but lucky most were strong enough to not be affected, but a few weren't. Levios put a shoulder on Izuku as he was also being affected. Izuku looked at his brother to see one of his eyes were red with a black split. Izuku nodded before taking a quick breath, calming down. "It's nothing, just a painful memory," Izuku says. The boys except a certain few were curious about the scar but pushed it to the back of their minds and went back to changing, but a certain grape-hair kid had different ideas. "Hey guys, look, I found a hole into the fire bathroom, let's look. I can't wait to see the snake hair girl's boobs or the black hair girl assessed." Before he could finish, a sharp glared sent chill down his spine. The purple hair team turned around only to see death. Izuku and Levios were both towering behind Mineta. A shadow casted over their face, leaving their eyes red with bloodlust and shark-tooth smiles to be seen by the unfortunate purple kid. "Hey Izuku, I heard that Guardian hasn't had a big meal yet," Levios said with a grin. "Yeah, Guardian favorite is fresh pervert and he's is very protective of Medusa. Hope you survive, pervert," Izuku says with a sadistic grin. Izuku smiled before a purple opens up under Mineta. Portal. Mineta fell face first onto a small piece of land in the middle of a giant hole. "Where am I?" he asked, looking around. The area was dark and a full moon could be seen high in the sky. A hissing sound could be heard all around, sending chills up the pervert's spine. Mineta turned around to eyes, giant's glowing red eyes staring at him. Quick as lighting, the creature attack, leaving Mineta's scream to be voiced to the lonely moon. Outside portal. Izuku and Levios were chuckling to each other before Izuku walked over, covering the hole in an icy cover. All the guys looked at Izuku and Levios, whose eyes were still red with split in horror, not wanting to end up like Mineta. Aizawa then poked his head into the locker room. "Hurry up, the girls are already done," he said, slightly annoyed. The boys quickly changed, meeting up with the girl. As soon as the boys made it out, Medusa took Izuku's hand, giving him a worried look. "Zuzu, are you okay?" she whispered to Izuku. "I'm fine, just got a bit pissed off, that's all," Izuku reassured her. Izuku then felt someone looking at him. Turning around, he saw Izumi, Katsumi and Shoka looking at him. Izuku turned back, paying them no mind. Aizawa then waking in front the class. "Okay, you Serpentine, I want you to use your quick and throw this ball," Aizawa said, pointing at Levios. Levios walked into the middle of the circle before winding up his arm. Wind swirled around Levios' hand as he released the ball. Aizawa looked at his phone, watching the number climb. 3,000 meters, Aizawa says. The class except for Izuku and Medusa were shocked, but then a pink hair girl said she shouldn't have. "Cool, we get to use our quirks, this is gonna be awesome," she said. Multiple others began to join in. "And you fouls have doomed us all," Izuku, Medusa and Levios said in unison. Aizawa smiled. "Okay, since this is fun, then the last person will be kicked out," he said. "Wait, that's unfair," Ochako says. Before Aizawa could say something, Izuku did. "You say that's unfair is being quirkless, bullied and neglected fair. Do you think the 20% of the population who are quirkless think everything is fair, hun?" Izuku said. Ochako didn't say anything and only put her head down in shame, while a few of the other students looked at Izuku with respect. "Very well spoke, young Serpentine, now everyone will do this test, and one more thing, Aizawa then looks on a sheet of paper with the students' names on. "Minor Mineta," he said. Izuku and Levios then remembered that they left him with an hungry guardian. "Oh yeah, he fell into on my portals. Don't really know if he's even alive," Izuku said half-truthfully. Aizawa's sweat dropped at Izuku's calm demeanor. "Well, can you try and bring him back?" he asked, trying to not get involved in a murder case. "Well, I'll try," Izuku said. He outstretched on of his arms and a portal of water form. Mineta can flying out. His uniform ripped and the balls on his head were missing a giant chunk. Guardian came out too, but has something stuck in his throat. Izuku reached in only to pull out the missing chunk of Mineta hair. His eyes looked like he had less sleep than Aizawa. Wo must have been a super pervert if Guardian didn't eat him, Medusa says. Guardian hissed before turning small, warping around Izuku's chest. Mineta then runs behind Aizawa, ball up into a ball. I've seen thing no man should ever see, she said, shaking. Okay, I think he shouldn't take the test, or maybe he should take a mental test or something, Izuku said. Aizawa nodded. Yeah, Mineta go to the nurse office and go sleep, Aizawa said. Mineta ran toward the nurse office with surprisingly speed. Okay, so after the test 3 with the lowest score will be expelled, Aizawa said. Wait, I thought only one person was getting expelled, a tall guy with multiple arms said. No, since we have multiple students and one person isn't taking the test, Aizawa said. This got most of the weaker students scared. Skipping test. 1. Livio's Serpentine. 2. Izuku Serpentine. 3. Medusa Pep. 4. Izumi Yagi. 5. Katsuki Bakugo. 6. Shoto Todoroki. 7. Katsumi Bakugo. 8. Shoka Todoroki. 9. Fumikage Tokoyami. 10. Mezushuji. 11. Mashireo Ojiro. 12. Ijiro Kirishima. 13. Mina Ishido. 14. Tsuyu Azui. 15. Momo Yayorozu. 16. Setsuna Tokage. 17. Hantasiro. 18. Kyukajiro. 19. Denki Kaminari. 20. Toru Hagakure. After the result, Toru began to cry while Denki and Jairu were pissed. What do you mean I have a power quirk? Jairu yelled with Denki behind here. I'll accept being expelled and use this as a learning experience, Toru said. Well, I wasn't going to expel you 3, but now Miss Jairu and Mr. Kaminari, but since you 2 have spoken out of line you will be expelled, but since Ms. Hagakure was willing to take it, she'll be given another chance and sent to class 1B. Now get your fast ass out my class, Aizawa says. Jairu and Denki were pissed while Toru was happy to be able to stay in UA gathering her things and going to class 1B. Class resumed like a normal day with students going to their normal classes. Eventually, the end of the day, the students sat in class with Mina standing at the front. I think before we leave we should introduce ourselves. I'll go first, she said. My name is Mina Ishido Quirk Acid. My hobbies are dancing and listening to music, she says before setting down. Izuku, Levios and Medusa went up together. Since we have to go, we'll all go after each other, Izuku said. My name is Medusa, a pep quirk serpent queen and elemental control. My likes are my boyfriend Izuku, Levios my family and music, she said. My name is Levio Serpentine, my quirk is royal serpent guard and elemental control. My likes are my twin Izuku, my sister Akame, my mom and dad, training and protecting my family, Levio said. My name is Izuku Serpentine, my quirk is serpent king and elemental control. My likes are my girlfriend, dancing, music, training, Levios, my parents and my sister Akame. Now I gotta go, Izuku said. Izuku then opens a portal from underneath them, teleporting them straight to Leon's castle. You 3 wanna watch a new show called My Hero Academia? Levios asked. Izuku and Medusa shrugged their shoulders and went to watch the show. Third POV. Izuku, Levios and Medusa walked the halls of UA. All 3 were bored as hell after having to sit through a dozen lectures by their parents. All 3 enters the clans and it was visible that the 3 were tired. Aizawa exited his sleeping bag and began homeroom. Classes went by relatively fast while 3 students were sleeping the whole time. The class noticed that Aizawa has quickly left the class and soon after multiple fast, hard and rapid footsteps could be heard. We are coming through the door like a normal person, All Might and GT yelled as they entered the class. The class erupted into cheers so loud it caused the 3 sleeping serpents to wake up. Bad idea. The class and even the whole school felt an wrathful aura surround the school. The class looked back only to see Izuku, Medusa and Levios. Izuku, Levios and Medusa raised their heads. Their eyes were red with black splits. Can you please shut up, Izuku said darkly. The class were shaking in their boots as Mineta ran for his life, not wanting to be a target of Guardian. Before Izuku could go on, Medusa hugged him from behind. Izuku looked back only for her to give him a sweet smile. For everyone else it looked as if she was calming Izuku down, but instead it was the complete opposite. Izuku had a look of horror as he and Levios were the only to see the demonic aura that was surrounding her. If Izuku and Levios knew one thing, it was never ever piss of a female serpent. Izuku's face paled as he and Levios sat back down in their seats. Medusa whispered something in his ear which made his bones shiver. Ahem, well, let's continue on with the lesion, GT said. The students were, for a lack of better words, scared shitless. Okay class, we're going to be having battle training, All Might said. But what are pros without the cloths? GT finished off. She pressed a bottom on the wall with multiple suitcases popping out. The class took their costumes and ran into the changing rooms with Izuku, Medusa and Levios taking their sweet time. So, All Might looked at the heroes in training in front of him. The cloths make the pros, but where is young Apep and the Serpentine twins? GT asked. Then the class heard footsteps. Turning around to see the three serpents. While those are some impressive costumes, All Might said. The class were stunned but also thought that the costumes were quite villainous for heroes in training. Izuku, Medusa and Levios walked over to the group with the girls blushing at Izuku and Levios' show of skin and small noses bleeds, but that was quickly stopped by a glare from Medusa, who warped her arm around Izuku, sticking her tongue at the girls, mainly Izumi, Shoka and Katsumi. Izuku chuckled under his breath, about to tease her, but was quickly put down by a glare from his mate. Levios chuckled under his breath, trying not to get noticed by Medusa. Okay class, today we're going to be doing battle training of 3v3 teams battles, with one team being heroes and the others villains, GT said. The class nodded as their names were put into a random name generator, which due to some magic of Medusa got a good matchup. Izuku looked at the board only to see a name with brought unbelievable anger to his face, but he kept it in. Medusa looked worryingly at her mate's face. Izuku held a face vivid of empty emotions. His eyes were slightly red. As he leaned on the wall, he clenched his fist tightly. Medusa grabbed Izuku's free hand, giving him a gentle smile. Izuku sighed before going back to his usually self. But hero team. Izuku Serpentine. Levios Serpentine. Medusa Pep. Villain team. Katsuki Bakugo. Shoto Todoroki. Izumi Yagi. Izuku, Medusa and Levios waited for villain team's pre-time to be over. As Levios and Medusa were about to enter the building, Izuku placed his hands on their shoulder. What is it, bro? Levios asked as he saw Izuku's eyes burning with rage. I'll take on Katsuki, he said. Both nodded. No, Izuku needed this. I'll take on Izumi, Medusa said. She was looking to get some revenge for her future husband. Levios shrugged his shoulders. Well, I guess I'll have to just kick the burnt-faced dumbass, Levios said. I'll get a few punches in for you. Izuku and Medusa chuckled as the three walked into the building. The three sniffed the air, getting the scent of their targets. Izumi was guarding the bomb. Shoto was a bit farther, with Katsuki rushing his way here. Guess I'll go kick his ass, Izuku says as he dashes off with Medusa and Levios chuckling, going to their targets. Izuku versus Katsuki. Katsuki was blasting his way toward the entrance, only to be met with a taloned foot to the face. Katsuki, who wasn't expecting the impact, was launched hard into the thick cement walls, creaking it. Katsuki picked himself up, looking at Izuku wrathfully. You damn Deku, you think just because you have some shitty quirk that you can beat me? Hell no, he roared as he charged Izuku. Izuku smirked as he cracking his knuckles before dropping into a serpent stance. What's with that damn smile? Katsuki asked, enraged. Oh, nothing much, I just can't wait to feel my fist connect to that damn ugly face of yours, Izuku said cockily. Katsuki in rage, blasting toward Izuku. Katsuki ran toward Izuku blindly, throwing massive explosions toward Izuku, who kept creating ice wall. While Katsuki was blindly throwing explosion, he was only grinning as his plan was going smoothly. Katsuki didn't notice, but the melting ice was melting, creating fog. The fog was getting thicker and thicker as Katsuki explosions were getting bigger and bigger. Izuku jumped back, wiping some sweat off his head. Creating multiple ice wall had costumed a tenth of his magic, but his plan was ready. Izuku began to channel his water magic to sense the water vapor coming in to connect with Katsuki. Izuku used his enchanted eyesight to see a bare silhouette of Katsuki. Katsuki suddenly felt pain in his stomach as he could barely make out Izuku's fist in his stomach. Katsuki was launched back into a wall, but before he could fall, Izuku had his foot and taloned deep into his chest. Izuku had a smirk as Katsuki screamed in pain holding his chest. He fell to his hands and knees holding his chest with his left arm only to be met with Izuku foot to his face. Katsuki was launched back into the same wall breaking through into a different room which quickly filled with fog. Izuku noticed that the fog was starting to fade and knew he needed to finish this fast. Izuku activated his lighting magic across his body before dashing toward Katsuki. Katsuki could only see a bright blue aura. As a last defense, Katsuki raised his arm pulling the pin of his gauntlets. A large explosion burst through the area with Izuku taking the blunt of the attack. Katsuki began to launch as he thought that he had finally killed Izuku, but unfortunately for him the last thing he saw. Izuku had taken the full blunt of the attack, bursting through it, landing in multitude of lightning fast attacks all over Katsuki, who was launched back and indented into the wall. Monitoring room. The class was unable to see anything from Izuku fight, but when the fog fell, every girl in the class immediately had a nosebleed. From the waist down, Izuku lower half was covered in scales, which luckily was able to curve his you-know-what to a side, making it invisible to the human eye, but his entered upper half was completely exposed, showing his godlike body. Every girl in the room had fall back with bloody spurting everywhere, with Inko hiding hers behind the clip bag she was using to hide her nosebleed. Training room. Izuku suddenly sneezed as he felt perverted thoughts about him that didn't seem like they were from Medusa. Izuku then felt the magic energy of Levios and Medusa, indicating that the two were in combat. "I'll go search for the bomb then," Izuku said as he walked toward the bomb. Levios versus Shoto. Levios stood in front of Shoto, giving him an hateful glare. Shoto was confused. He didn't know Levios or did anything against him. "Why are you mad at me? I don't even know you," he asked. "Well, my brother Izuku does have some history against you, and for what you've done I'll kick that half-burnt ass of yours," he said. Todoroki was pissed as he blasted a pull of ice toward Levios, which was destroyed by a barrier of wind that surrounded Shoto. "Oh, getting mad, how about you use that fire or yours and really give me a show," Levios taunted. "Shut up," Shoto yelled as he blasted another wall of ice toward Levios, only to have no effect. Levios then vanished from Todoroki's eyesight before landing a punch to his face which sent him barreling into a wall. Levios then used his to disable the cameras and sound records. Todoroki raised up from the wall holding his face, which was slight bruised. "You're pissing me off," he said as he launched another pillar of ice. Levios was getting pissed. This half-burnt bastard was half-assing a fight against him, the next Serpent Lord's general. "No, this shall not pass." Levios broke through the ice with just his raw physical strength, appearing in front of Todoroki. He reeled his arm back, giving Todoroki a devastating punch to the face, sending him through the wall. Levios didn't stop as he grabbed Todoroki by the hair as slammed his head into the wall repeatedly. A fire was burning inside Leviso. His eyes burned a scarlet red. His hand began to be covered by the earth inside the was as he smashed Todoroki's face through the wall before releasing him. Todoroki was unconscious on the floor, bloodied. Levios smiled as he had finally done it. He'd unlock his 3 elements and was now one step above Izuku. He smiled as he was going to gloat his ass off about this one. Leviso then collapsed to the ground due to the immense amount of magic loss from awaking his 3rd element. Medusa versus Izumi. Medusa was crawling through the ventilation system. She looked through one of the vents to see she was above Izumi. She used her water magic to flood the room up to Izumi's knees. Izumi was so FNG confused on where all this water was coming from, but suddenly felt the water began to freeze her legs. Izumi tried to use one for all, but suddenly her arms were turned to stone. She only then saw the red eyes of Medusa and her snakes in the vents. Use her telekinesis, she crushed the vent only for multiple snake to pour out. Too bad for Izumi, as unlike her brother who loved snakes, she was scared shitless from them. The snake began to pile onto each other before reforming Medusa. "Well, that was rude, but I'll let it pass since I'm going to be winning this," she said as she made her way toward the bomb. "Give me back my brother, you bitch," Izumi said coldly. Medusa froze. Not only had she just been called a bitch, but this woman was demanding that she'd hand over her mate. And no way in hell. Izumi didn't know it, but she had just opened the biggest can of whoop as she could ever hope to. Medusa turned around, immediately turning the cameras to stone. Her eyes were blood red with snake following suit. Izumu was not prepared for the brutality. But unlike Izuku and Leviso, Medusa liked to deal physiology trauma to her enemy. "Oh, I have something for you, Kukokuj," Medusa said. She wiped Begin Izumi, showing her with leaked and green substance. Don't ask why she became Frisia for a second. "What are you going to do with me?" Izumi quietly and fearfully to herself. Medusa smirked as she sunk her fangs into Izumi's neck as her body slumped over. "Well, that'll be a great surprise for when she wakes up," Medusa said as touched the bomb, unstunning the cameras, allowing All Might to call the match, but no before cracking the stone around Izumi's arms, breaking them. Medical bots flooded the building and immediately took the unconscious three to the infirmary as Izuku, Leviso, and walked out without a stretch. "Well, except Izuku. What happened to your cloths?" Levios asked as he saw his brothers using his tail to hide his you-know-what. "Oh yeah, it got blown up," he said, rubbing the back of his head. "Oh yeah, guess what? I unlocked my third element, Earth, so that makes me stronger than you, aha." Leviso laughed like an idiot. "I would let it go to your head," Izuku said, with Leviso brushing it off, basking in his only glory. The three entered the monitoring room only to see everyone looking at them wide-eyed. "What do I have something on my face?" the three said in unison. The class sweat dropped. "Can anyone tell me anything that happens during that match?" GT asked. The three looking at each other confused before coming up with the conclusion that they each must have destroyed the cameras. "Nope," all three said. The class sighed as All Might and GT just gave them the win. The school days go on as Izuku and company teleport away as usual, but something was wrong with Izumi. She was terrified of Medusa and stayed far away from her. Izuku room time skipped few hours. Izuku slept in his bed where he dreamed of puppy dogs and rainbows, but suddenly he was pulled into a world which looked like the Serpent Kingdom. He walked the streets confused only to see the bodies of serpents. "What the hell is going on?" he said as he continued walking. Eventually he felt the aura of a live serpent. Following 10 aura, Izuku was in levitation. Thor room, and sitting on top his throne was a teen only a few years older than him. He was 6'3", wearing a half cloak which shadowed his face while leaving the rest of his body exposed. He wore black plants with armor while being shirtless. On his back was an long giants with Rex engraved onto it. Through his cloak I could see scarlet red eyes. His nails were long and sharp. He gave off the aura of a king, making me feel like noting in comparison. "Hello, child," he said. Just from the sound of his voice I fell to the ground trying to breath. "Don't worry, my name is Jaykaydbx. I'm the ancestor of levitation and the first true Serpent King," he said. The weight of pressure began to lighten as Izuku was able to stand to his knees but unable to talk. "Don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you, but I'm here to warn you," he said. This caught Izuku's attention. "Soon to come there's going to be in danger, and if you aren't enough, all serpents will die," he said. Izuku began to panic, but soon everything began to change. He was floating in the sky with the mysterious teen. He looked down only to see Serpent Kin being slaughtered. "This is the reality of which is to come to serpents. This is the what happened to my world. This is why I am the Shadow Serpent. Protect this world and don't become like me," he said. Izuku was confused by the mysterious serpent, but the man raised his hand toward Izuku, shooting a pressurized blast of wind at Izuku, knocking him out of his dream. Izuku woke up in a cold sweat. Looking over to his left, he could see Medusa, who slept over next to him. A startled and worried Medusa reached out to Izuku. "Izuku, are you okay?" Medusa asked worriedly of her mate. Izuku looked over to her before taking her directly into his arms, surprising Medusa. Medusa, surprised, worked her arms around Izuku and stroked his face. "Shush, it's just a dream," she whispered in Izuku's ears. Nodding, Izuku released Medusa from his hold. "Do you want to talk about it?" Medusa asked. Izuku nodded as he began to tell her everything he said. Medusa was concerned as he knew of who this man was, and he was truly her ancestors. "Well, keep this a secret from my everyone but Leviso. We'll have to allow him to know as the next Serpent General," she said. Izuku nodded as he kissed her on the lips, with the two laying down going back to sleep. Third POV. Izuku sat in class with a lot on his mind. He kept having these dreams, but they felt more like two kings communing with each other. Izuku was suddenly pulled out his thoughts as Medusa pulled his ear angrily. "Zuzu, listen to the teacher," she whispered into Izuku's ear. Sorry I was spacing out a bit, Izuku said as he looked her in the eye. Well, Aizawa said that we're going to a place called the Ust, Medusa told her mate. Oh, the unforeseen simulation joint, I heard that all of heroes trained there, Izuku said. Sound like you want to be a hero, wonder if it's fun or something, Medusa asked. Not really, I'm just in this hero program so that I can get combat experience, nothing else, Izuku stated to Medusa. Izuku then felt a glare from Aizawa, who was staring to get annoyed of Medusa, Izuku and Levios speaking in serpent tongue. You have two options, either teach me that damn language or speak regular, Aizawa said. Izuku, Medusa and Levios giggled before going back to English. I'm American Big Wolf, wanna fight about it. Okay, for those who weren't listening, Aizawa says looking at Izuku. Today we're going to the Ust for hero training, so everyone suit up, Aizawa said. The class left to suit up, but there was a clear difference in the way everything seemed. In the boys' locker room, everything was relatively calm besides the glare Izuku was receiving from Katsuki. But the girls were a different story completely. Izumi herself was in a bad spot. As she looked at Medusa, her heartbeat began to rise. Fear began to overload her. Leave me alone, she screamed, surprising everyone as she ran out the locker room. What's up with Izumi? Shoka said as she went to her friend. Don't know, Uraraka and Momo stay here, Katsumi said. Izumi mind. Izumi balled up in a corner as tear ran down her face. Okay, Izumi, what's wrong? This is what quirkless people deserve, right? A voice said. Izumi recognized the voice, knowing who it was. She suddenly felt pain shoot through her spine as she was blasted in the back into the wall. She watched as her friends began to beat and bully her, but it all stopped. She then saw Izuku, but it was him from when they were young. Oh, look at Izumi, Yagi, so weak and powerless to stop her torments, Izuku cackled. Let me out, Izumi sobs as tear ran down her face. Stop, please, just stop, she sobbed, rolling into a ball. What about all the time I yelled for you to stop, all the times you left me on death's door? What about all the times I begged for you, so stop, Izuku suddenly yelled, scaring Izumi. The room began to change to show current Izuku, Medusa, Levios and Akame on Izuku's lap. I have a new family and a new sister who I love, Izuku said as Izumi began to stutter. So what I'm trying to say is I hate you, Izuku laughed as the room began to break apart. Real world. Izumi's eyes bursted open to see her friends sighting around her in their hero costumes while she laid in the infirmary. Izumi, what happened to you? Katsumi asked her friend. That Medusa girl did something to me, Izumi said. What did she do? The group yelled. Whenever I'm around her or look at her, I'll get these terrible dreams of what we did to Izuku, but it's mean, he said, sobbing. The group marched out of the infirmary to find Medusa. The group went to the most logical place, the buses, since everyone was supposed to go there. The group arrived to see Izuku, Medusa and Levios leaning against the bus. Without a second of hesitation, Katsuki and Katsumi launched an explosion toward the trio, surprising the class and teachers. Izuku and Medusa both sidestepped their attack and returned a fist to their faces while Levios ducked under a kick from Ilda. Levios ducked under Ilda before sending him spiraling into the air as he gave Ilda an undercut, shouting Shoryuken. Izuku looked at his brother, pinching the bridge of his nose. Come on man, that was so nerdy, but I'll have you cool point for it, Izuku said. Oh come on, don't be mad that I kicked you ass with Ryu, Levios taunted his brother. You know that only reason you won is because I couldn't use Kami, Izuku retailed. Oh F off, she's broken, Levios said. Shut the F up and stop ignoring us, the explosion twins yelled, getting everyone's attention. Oh yeah, can you explain why you attacked me? And the only reason I'm saying it nice is because I can beat all of you without trying, Medusa gloated, angering the twins. You beach, what did you do to Izumi? Katsumi yelled. What do you mean because I don't follow? Medusa said with a smile. You know what you did, you placed made Izumi have those dreams, Katsuki yelled, jumping towards her with an explosion. As the teachers went to block Katsuki, a green blur passed them, and some after Katsuki was implanted into the cement, creating a cloud of dusk. The dusk cleared as everyone could see Katsuki unconscious on the ground with Izuku standing on top of him. Izuku hopped off Katsuki as if nothing had happened. Okay, can someone tell me what's going on here? Aizawa yelled. That beach use her quirk to do something to Izumi, Katsuki yelled. Medusa, is that true? Aizawa said as his quirk activated. Sorry sensei, but even if I did I wouldn't know since my quirk works off emotions, so I could have injected her with too much fear toxin, Medusa said, lying though the skin of her teeth. Well, is there a way to remove the toxin? Aizawa asked. Yazuzu made an voice vaccine for it, Medusa said. The class locked over to Izuku, who was on his phone. Izuku, do you have the cure? Aizawa said. Yeah, but I have to go get it from my house. BRB, Izuku said as a portal opened up underneath him and Medusa. Serpent Realm. Earth Realm Lude End. Izuku and Medusa dropped through Izuku portal. Izuku looked calm while Medusa held an beet red blush on her face. What's up with her? Aizawa said. Levios bursted into laughter as he could smell Izuku's scent all over Medusa. Levios switched to Serpent tongue. So you marked her? You're lucky that our parents won't be able to smell Izuku's scent on her, or else you two would have a lot explained, he said, laughing at the end. Izuku and Medusa both blushed before looking at Levios with a face of confusion. Then how come you can smell it? Levios said. Well, I am the next Serpent General. It would make sense that I could smell by Bother's scent, he said smugly. Both looked at Levios, creeped out. Just kidding, I can see that your aura's mixed and everyone is going to smell you, he said laughing. Izuku gulped, knowing that he'll have two anger fathers do deal with one being his, and he didn't even want to think about what his mother was going to do to him. Medusa had the same mindset as both, then looked at Levios. An evil smile formed across their lips as a dark aura began to surround them. Levios began to tremble. Why are you two looking at me like that? He said, shaky. Well, we're dead, so we might as well take you with us, both said in a menacing tone. Levios knew he could take one of them in a fight, but two was pushing it, so like an possum he played dead, passing out. Izuku and Medusa looked at each other before laughing. The two then faced the confused class before switching back to English. Sorry, here's the cure, Izuku said as he pulled out a massive syringe which caused Izumi to faint. Okay, now here's the real one, Izuku said as he pulled out a massively smaller syringe. What are you waiting for? Katsuki said to Medusa in a low, not daring to encounter Izuku wrath. Well, I need one of you to cycle blood to her too that she doesn't receive too much, Medusa said. Fine, I'll do it, Shoto said as he walked toward Medusa with Izumi in his arms. Medusa grabbed one of Shoto's R and one of Izumi's R as his claws sinked into the flesh. The toxin went from Izumi to Shoto as Izuku injected Medusa with the cure. A blue liquid flowed through Medusa's veins, which wasn't anything that would matter. In fact, inside it increased her toxin potentness. Unaware to Shoto and Izumi that had just been injected with a stronger version of Medusa nightmare toxin. There, I'm done, Medusa said as she fell into Izuku's arms unconscious. Izuku, is she okay? Aizawa asked. Yeah, she'll be fine, the cure take a lot out of her, Izuku said. And what about Yagi? Aizawa asked. She'll be fine, she might still experience the nightmares but only for a week at most, but they might become more extreme due to the toxin fighting back, Izuku said. Aizawa nodded as he began to allow the students on the bus. Instantly Izuku, Medusa and Levios took the back row of seats. The bus began to move as Izuku woke up the playing dead Levios. The two began to converse as Izuku told Levios it was a joke. While the two were talking, the frog girl Azui asked the two a question which caught everyone's attention. Hey, what are you two quirks? She asked the two brothers. We rather not say, both said in unison with an unconscious Medusa saying it in her sleep. The class were confused but kept to themselves. The bus stopped in front of the USJ. Aizawa led the class inside, leaving Medusa and Izumi inside the bus to rest. As the class began to walk up the stairs, the redhead Kirishima called something out. Hey, you guys even got fake villains for us to practice against manly, he shouted, OU, alerting everyone. Izuku and Levios looked at the villains but then both had a face of shock. Standing next to the villains was the same guy Izuku fought, and now he had two other of the same race. The guy made eye contact with Izuku, giving him a devilish smirk. Suddenly black portals began to open up, splitting the class up in different areas of the USJ. Izuku and Levios were sent crashing into the ground, making's mini creator. Izuku and Levios stood up, seeing that they were completely surrounded by what seemed like to be between 50 to 100 villains. How the F did they even fit this many villains in this one area? Levios asked. B1 guard, I can sense this three guys' magic, but I can pinpoint it, Izuku said to his brother. Yeah, I'll take the 75-1, the left, you take the 75-0 and the right, Izuku said. No, I'll take 76, Levios said with Izuku sighing and rolling his eyes. Both took their stance, with Izuku in the King's Royal Serpent stance and Levios in the Royal Imperial Guard stance. Both gave each other a cocky smirk before disappearing. Third POV. Izuku and Levios stood in the middle of 150 villains strong. Let's get this over with, Levios said with him and Izuku grinning. Levios' magic began to spike and gather in his leg. Slamming his foot down, Levios created a massive wall of earth, diving the Usch in two parts. Levios sighed. Levios looked at the 76 villains, smiling as he cracked his knuckles. He's just a kid, what's he gonna do? A villain said as he began to grow. Levios grinned as the villain grew to giant's proportions. The villain sent a fist toward Levios, who disappeared right before reappearing on the villain's arms. Running up the villain's arm, Levios punched the villain hard in the face, causing him to crash into the ground. Backflipping off the villains, Levios landed on the head of another villain. Wind began to swirl around Levios, forcing the villains to buckle down as to not be swept up as he began to unleash his power. Blades of wind began to shoot from around Levios, hitting multiple villains and leaving them with Natsu injuries. Levios ducked, sensing danger and a sudden, unknown magic spike. Levios jumped into the air, channeling wind magic into his feet to stay afloat. As soon as Levios had jumped, multiple spikes of magma had launched from underneath him, clearly meant to kill him. Levios looked down to see two figures in black cloak, both clearly female in their appearance. The two figures removed theirs cloaked to reveal to beautiful women. The one to his left was taller, standing at 5'8" with long black hair, dark blue eyes. She wore a sleeveless tie-neck shirt with baggy jeans. Her arms were covered with red phoenix-like feathers tattoos. She had a curvy figure that would make anyone other women jealous, with ample beast. She held a rather large black-colored claymore sword with the design of a phoenix engraved into it. The other was short, standing only at 5 foot tall, with short blonde hair and light blue eyes. She wore what seemed to be a black schoolgirl outfit with a skirt and stockings, leaving her toned flat stomach exposed. She seemed to have the same tattoos. She had an holster around her waist, which each holding a red-colored desert eagle. Levios was one guard, sensing an impressive magical level from both. Gathering both ice-earth magic into his hands, Levios created a large Sanbato sword. You two are from the Phoenix faction. A shame such talent like yours would be wasted on a race of traitors and arrogant a-holes, Levios said, pissing the two off. And it's a shame such a pretty face like you and your brothers will have to be killed, the shorter girl said. Well, if I'm going fight you, I might as well get your name, Levios said, raising an eyebrow. I'm Jewel and she's Violet and she's Amber, and you're Art, the taller one asked. Well, you're looking at Levios of the Serpent clan and the next in line for the Serpent general position, Levios said with a cocky smile. Now who's being cocky, Violet said as she dashed toward Levios. The two meeting in the middle, with their swords crashing against one another in a struggle for the upper hand. Levios soon jumped back, hearing the sound of two guns being fired. Levios narrowly dodged two bullets, with one grazing his right cheek and the other grazing his leg. Levios brought his sword up, defending against Violet's sword. The impact of her sword was unexpected by Levios, as the force created a large crater around the two. Levios felt his legs turn to jelly from the blast. Damn, the force from here swings are devastating, and with that Amber girl their teamwork is amazing, Levios thought. Sparks began to fly as the two danced around the Usch, eliminating villains who were caught in the crossfire of their attacks. Levios jumped back, channeling earth magic as he began to lose the edge. Earth magic, earth-shattering dome, Levios whispered to himself as a dome of earth formed around him. Damn, I gotta turn this fight around, Levios said. He was getting frustrated that he couldn't get past their teamwork. Levios suddenly jumped back out of the dome as spikes of magma launched out, catching his leg. The spike left a gash on Levios' legs, forcing him to a knee. He was breathing hard as sweat dripped down his face. He soon brought his sword up, blocking a strike from Violet. Levios suddenly felt pain as both of Amber bullets hit him dead center in the chest. Violet began to apply pressure onto Levios as he was hit again with Amber bullets. Violet suddenly felt a rush of anger though her as she saw a smirk form of Levios' face. Just die already, she said, anger as his smirk. Sorry, but dying is something I don't do, Levios said. Violet began to push her blade into Levios, but suddenly a freezing sensation went through her. Levios broke into millions of ice shards before suddenly 3 Levios popped up from the ground, each with a sword. Violet tried to jump back, but looking down, her legs were encased in ice up to the knees. Violet closed her eyes expecting pain, but a sudden scream caused her eyes to jump out of their socket. Amber screamed as she felt Levios' blade enter his stomach. She fell over, bleeding profusely as her eyes began loses their blue color as a pool of blood formed around her. Violet looked in horror at what seemed to be her dead teammates. Her eyes glow a venomous dark blue as flames began to erupt around her. The back of her shirt ripped apart, revealing 20 feet big wings. Her eyes were bloodlust as her magic levels raised, threatening to destroy the Usch. The earth underneath Levios' feet began to raise as he felt her anger. Before Levios could even think, Violet appeared behind him, slamming him into the earth. Levios' eyes blanked out, turning pure white as his body bounced off the floors of the Usch. Before Levios could think, he was suddenly kicked in the stomach, being launched into the mountain area. As Levios crashed into the mountain area, Violet appeared in front of him with her arms extended. Phoenix destruction, she said, blasting Levios with a full-powered flame blast. Levios felt incredibly pain as he also vanished alongside the mountain. Violet grabbed Levios by the throat before throwing him into the shipwreck zone, causing a massive explosion. Levios felt pain all over as he drifted further and further underneath the shipwreck zone. Levios, you have to fight, a soft voice said in the back of Levios' head. Mom, is that you? I'm sorry, but I think I failed, Levios said with a small tear coming out of his eye. The hell are you saying? Are you or are you not a serpentine? We give up. Just think of what you'll be leaving. Giving up, do mean Izuku your father and Ake mean nothing to you, she screamed into her son's head. Levios suddenly felt a surge of power throughout his veins as a typhoon formed over the Usch. Levios looked at Violet, who was about to destroy the ice barrier dividing the Usch. Where the hell do you think you're going? Levios said. His eyes turned from his normal black to a sky blue. Lighting began to form around Levios. The ground quaked as Levios walked, frightened to destroy under his might. Violet looked at Levios as fear and anger filled her system. Her mind knew she wasn't fighter for Amber anymore, but rather pure survival instincts. Do you really think you can beat me just because you've gotten a power-up? She exclaimed. I'm not sure, but Mama ain't raised no beach, Levios said. Levios and Violet vanished before reappearing with a fist in each other's face. The force caused the entire Usch to shake and even destroy a part of the building. The two began in brutal battle of power, leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. Violet grabbed Levios' shirt, pulling it over his head before rapidly punching him all over his body. Levios shredding the rest of his shirt with wind, dodging a barrage of punches sent by Violet. Levios ducked down, sweeping Violet's legs before summoning earth magic. A pillar of earth erupted from the ground, slamming into Violet's stomach. The pillar lifted Violet almost to the top of the Usch before forming restraints around her body. As Violet tried to get out of the earth, Levios appeared above her. Serpent General Technique King's Enforcer / Levios said. A sword of lighting and water formed in Levios' hand as he slashed downward into Violet, sending her through the earth pillars. A large explosion consumed the area as Levios fell down toward the Usch floor. Levios hit the Usch floor hard. He was covered in blood and heavy injured. Levios looked up to see Class 1A looking at him. Help me, he said weakly, subduing to his injuries. Levios saw as the class refused and didn't even bat an eye to help him. Anger began to swelling within Levios. Suddenly Levios felt himself being lifted up. He looked to his left to only see in person in ultraviolet light. Thank you, Levios said weakly before falling in unconsciousness. You guys are all a-holes and you say you want to be heroes, yet you denied a fellow classmate help. You're all worse than scum, Toru yelled angrily as she carried Levios out the Usch. The outside of the Usch had multiple pro-heroes, policemen and medics all located outside it. Toru brought Levios to a medical tent where medic immediately rushed him to a hospital. Turning around, Toru saw that the top of the Usch was blown off and toe figure could be seen floating above it. Third POV. Izuku Serpentine, the next in line for the Serpent King's throne, he said, spewing out malice. My name is Ignis Flameheart, the next in line for the Phoenix throne, he said. A few months ago you were in a confrontation with my brother and you ended up hurting him severely. As payment I'll make sure you destroy you. He wore a red-colored kasaya that covers one half of his body while the other half is exposed. An orange sash is also tied around the upper part of the garb that streaks to hip to go with one around his waist as well. He had long black feather-like tattoos running down his shoulders to his wrist. His 40-foot-wide wings nearly blocked out the sun with their enormous size. His eyes were a blazing crimson red. His scarlet hair was flowing wildly as he held a sinister smile. He tossed his sword aside in favor of his fist. While his opponents may have held a sadistic smile, Izuku held and rather calm demeanor. Green scales began to cover Izuku as his tail formed. Izuku looked at him with cold eyes, but behind his cold eyes were an raging inferno. Izuku dropped his lancer as wind began to channel around his hand up to his elbows. Without a word the two disappeared, reappearing halfway. The fist connected with each other's, causing a clouds to part. Both stepped back, testing each other out. Izuku reeled back, his fist hitting him square in the face, but to his surprise Ignis didn't budge. Was that supposed to hurt? He said with an cocky smirk. Piss of you, Flame Beach, Izuku said, annoyed. Izuku suddenly felt pain in his chest as Ignis punched him. I'll inform you that I'm nothing like my brother, Ignis said. Izuku looked up at him before smiling. Two logos began to appear above the two. One was of a crimson flame bird with its majestic wings full exposed, while the other was a two-headed serpent with green scales and venomous black eyes. Izuku and Ignis soon fizzed out of visions as only glimpses of the two could be seen. Shockwaves riddled the sky as their battle continued. Neither Izuku or Ignis could get the upper hand on each other. Izuku was faster and more agile while Ignis was physically stronger and more durable than Izuku. Izuku or Ignis wouldn't admit it, but they were starting to have a mutual respect for each other's strength, but unfortunately this battle would end with one of the other either dead or severely crippled. Izuku vanished behind Ignis as he began to channel magic. Giant's water shuriken, Izuku said. Blades of water began to form around Izuku before being launched toward the Ignis at shocking speeds. Ignis channeled flames to his right arm before waving his arm to the left, unleashing a wave of flames neutralizing the attack. A byproduct of Ignis' attack was that a fog began to form surrounding Ignis. Suddenly multiple Izuku appeared around him only to be destroyed by Ignis' flames. The fog began to thicken to a point where Ignis could hardly see a foot in front of him. Suddenly he felt pain riddle his body. He knew this was Izuku using the fog to his advantage, but two could play this game. Izuku went for another attack but jumped back outside the fog. A sudden spike of magic frightened him. The fog began to glow as sparks could be seen from the inside. Instantly Izuku created a barrier of wind around him. Izuku waited worriedly. He could feel the spike in magic, but suddenly he realized something. Ignis wasn't going to release his attack till Izuku came to him, and if Izuku didn't, the attack would surely kill everyone else. Izuku closed his eyes as a dome of ice began to surround Izuku. The dome began to harden around Izuku, turning to ice. With one last sigh, Izuku flew into the cloud of fog. Izuku felt the density in magic inside the cloud. He began to pour more magic into his ice dome. As Izuku made it closer to the center, he felt the magic spark. An explosion ensued, Izuku sending him to the floor of the USJ. His ice dome was barely withstanding the impact. Before Izuku could recover, his dome was shattered by a punch from Ignis, but that wasn't the end. Grabbing Izuku's leg, Ignis threw him toward the ice wall he and Levios had created. Catching himself mid-air, Izuku turned facing the guy with a serious look. Izuku dodged a punch from Ignis, who was already on him. Izuku countered with as uppercut, sending him flying. Izuku covered himself in water, removing a few of his injuries as he watched Ignis stand up. Izuku opened his right hand as a lancer began to form while Ignis formed a crimson square shield. Water began to surround Izuku, taking the form of a water serpent. Izuku took on step before vanishing. As he vanished, Ignis raised his shield to block. Izuku appeared slightly above Ignis as he brought his lancer down. Serpent thrust, Izuku yelled as he smashed into Ignis' shield. Royal protection, Ignis screamed. A barrier of flames surrounding Ignis as he and Izuku fought for dominance. Both began pouring all their magic into their respective spell in a heated struggle. Steam began to close the floor as the two speeds raged on. Unaware to the two of them, an bigger threat was emerging. The two broke apart before running at each other at speeds no one could keep up with. Outside the USJ, the heroes stood outside, not daring to enter the fight. Sparks flew and shockwaves quaked the area, causing everyone to stay back. Ignis flew into the air, breaking out of their struggling. Flames began to cover his body as he flew toward Izuku in a raging tornado. Phoenix dive. Serpent rush. Water began to surround Izuku as he flew toward Ignis. The two clashed in the sky, resulting in a massive explosion covering the area. Both were sent crashing into the USJ floor, both badly injured for the clash. The heroes went to move in, but as they went to enter the USJ, an invisible force kept them out. Green portals began to form around the multiple warriors with vines for hair walked out. Shocking Izuku, the girl he'd seen around school, walked out of the portal. He remembered that her name was Ibra Shiozaki and that he felt an weird presence around her. A green fairy-like logo began to form above her as it confirmed Izuku's suspension. So you really were a part of the fairy race, but why are you here? Izuku asked, confused. A twisted smile appeared on her face as her eyes glow in dark green. It's simply really, the other races have grown too powerful and arrogant. We have decided we will eliminate every other race, putting the world back into equilibrium, starting with the new kings, she said, malice in her voice. Izuku and Ignis were shocked as they stood up. I'd like to propose a temporary truce, Izuku said. You read my mind, Serpent, Ignis said. The two stood side by side with flames covering Igens forming as he took on a bird-like appeared. The top half of a bird beak. His wings turned from a crimson red to golden red as his flames raged on. Izuku closed his eyes as wind began to swirl around him. His skin began to turn a dark brown as scales began to cover his body. His tail grew bigger as two dragon-scaled wings sprayed from his back. Izuku and Ignis looked at each other, acknowledging each other's strength not as enemy but as equals. The two looked Ibra before vanishing, and a second later Ibra soldiers were sent fly as Izuku and Ignis broke through their formations. Izuku blades of water ripped through the soldiers like butter while Ignis flames roasted the solders. A group of soldiers move ahead, pouring their magic into each other. Vine destruction, the group said together as vines began to erupt from the ground. Izuku and Ignis both jumped back, preparing a combined attack, but suddenly all the vines turned to stone. Looking behind, the two saw Medusa behind with her left hand out and two fingers extended. Her snakes were fully awoken in anger. Took you long enough, Izuku said as he laughed at the end. He then received a bonk on the head from Medusa. Yeah, it's not my fault, you're the one who told me to do that. Do shut up and I better get my reward, she said, giving her maiden devilish look, sending chills up Izuku's spine. I hope all serpents aren't like this, or else I might just kill myself, Ignis said, rolling his eyes. Will you shut the hell up, Ibra yelled, getting the group's attention. Okay, we'll talk after we beat her. Okay, Medusa, Izuku said, getting a nod from his mate and a sigh from Ignis. We'll take care of the guards. Go kick her ass, Medusa, Izuku said as he threw Medusa toward Ibra. Medusa versus Ibra. Catching herself mid-air, Medusa began to spun into an axe kick, bring her leg down on top of Ibra, who surround her arms in vine to block the kick. Jumping off Ibra arms, Medusa splashed into a puddle of water before reappearing several feet back. Ibara slammed her foot into the ground, causing a wave of vines rush toward Medusa, ripping apart the earth. Medusa's eyes glow red as the vines turned to stone. The stone was smashed away as Ibra appeared in front of Medusa with and extend his. Grabbing her wrist, Medusa slammed before kicking her away with an lighting-infused kick. As Ibra was sent fly, Medusa appeared in front of her before throwing a barrage of lighting quick punch to Ibra, who was helpless to block. Ibra crashed into the stairs of the USJ as Medusa was above her. As Medusa came down to finish Ibra off, a vine pierced through her shoulder. Curtsy or Ibra. Landing a few feet away from Ibra, Medusa ripped the vines out of her shoulder. She looked at Ibra pissed before sticking her right hand out in the shape of a gun. Spirit gun, 1 million bolt lighting bullet, Medusa said as a blast of lighting accepted her finger. The blast reached Ibra at lightning speeds, destroying the area around it. Ibra yelled as she was hit with the powerful blast resulting in explosion. The dust began to clear as nothing was left of Ibra, or that was with it seem. Medusa knew that right before the attack hit, Ibra had teleported away back to the magic realm, and to confirm this, all of her soldiers vanished. Then a shocking revelation hit her. All those soldiers were made from her magic, which meant Ibra was controlling, maintaining, and fighting all at the same time, which would have surely have cut her combat performance. She wondered, if Ibra hadn't had made those soldiers, would she have beaten her that easily, or would she have lost? She was brought out of her thoughts by Izuku and Ignis, who appeared by her side. The group saw that Yahiro had finally entered and were looking at Ignis but not acting. Izuku switched over Bird, which was one of the languages he had learned. Ignis, I suggest you leave. Even if we were once enemy, we'll need to ally up in order to defeat her and the fairies, or else we might have destruction on our hands soon, Izuku said. Ignis nodded as he took the unconscious Violet and what seemed to be dead Amber before teleporting away to the Phoenix realm. Hey Medusa, do me a favor, Izuku asked, getting a confused look from Medusa. Carry me, Izuku said as he warped an arm around Medusa's neck. Medusa groaned at how heavy Izuku was before walking him up the stair past the heroes. Medusa brought Izuku to an ambulance where both were rushed to the hospital. On the ride, the two medics couldn't help but sweat drop as they watched Medusa chew Izuku out for being so reckless. Third POV. Izuku and Medusa looked from a glass window at Levios. He had taken the most damage during the USJ attack and was still holding on strong. Izuku opened the door to his room before he walked inside, leaving Medusa to wait for him. Izuku stood on his brother's bedside as a tear fell down his eyes. This is my fault, Izuku whispered to himself as more tears fell from his face. This is my fault, so I'll fix it, Izuku said as he placed his hand on top of Levios' head. The room began to glow as Izuku began to surge his magic energy into Levios. With my power I order you heal, Izuku chanted as Levios began to glow. Magic began to swirl around the room as Levios' injuries began to heal. The glow faded as Izuku fell to one knee. Medusa entered the room, rushing to Izuku's side. Izuku, are you okay? She asked as she held Izuku's hand. Don't worry, I'm fine, just a tried, Izuku said as he held her hand. The two heard a low groan from Levios as his most serious wounds had been healed, only leaving him with a few broken ribs and a mild concussion. Izuku rose to his feet with the help of Medusa. Let's teleport him back home. The healer's home will be able to heal him better than I can, Izuku said, getting a nod from his mate. Izuku pulled out his key before focusing magic into it. The room began to glow as a portal formed under Levios' bed and the Serpent couple. Serpent World. The group reappeared in medical area Leviathan Castle, where medics immediately took Levios and began to heal him. Medusa, I want you to go and inform your fathers on the events that have transpired today, Izuku said, getting a nod from his mate. Izuku himself left Leviathan and went toward Leon Castle. Upon opening the door, Izuku was met with Anna and Leon, where were enjoying a cup of tea, and to their left was Akame, who sleeping on Anna's lap. The two looked at Izuku, noticing his bandaged arms and legs, his puffy eyes, and the large amount of unshed tears his eyes held. The couple immediately ran over to their soon, as this sight could only remind them of Izuku when they first meet. The two immediately brought Izuku in a hug. Izuku hugged them tight as tears ran down his face. Then it hit the two, where was Levios? Izuku, where's your brother? Leon asked. Izuku's tears began to fall harder as he began to explain everything that had happened yesterday. A week later, sitting face to face, Leviathan and Izuku faced the king of the Phoenix faction, Azar Flameheart, and his son Ignis Flameheart. Izuku and Ignis locked eyes before nodding at each other, knowing that they'll be the ones doing most of the talking. Azar Flameheart was a massive man who matched Leviathan in height. His eyes were scarlet red like his son's, while his hair was a cold black. He wore a red kimono with 2 arm brackets while his sword was against his side. Leviathan, is what my son tells me true? The man asked in a rather serious tone. Yes. For what I've been told, the fairies have began to attack other nations, but I don't have everything, Leviathan said. From what we heard, they're planning on using Earth Realm as a battleground, and what some research we've done, it appears that they're converting humans into fairies to use as soldiers, Azar said, shocking the two serpents. If this is true, we must act fast. Bring humans into this. Could the Celestials involved in? None of us would want this, Azar said, getting a deep sigh from Leviathan. Father, if you don't mind, can you please inform me on who the Celestials are? Ignis asked. I as well would like to know who the Celestials are, father-in-law. Izuku saying that caused Leviathan to spit out his tea and Azar to burst into laughter. Whipping away tears, Azar spoke. The Celestials are two beings of godly power. Their power is what separates our realm from the human realm, Azar said. The Celestials are what you would call two gods. They created our realm and give us magic. The kings of each faction are those who they are recognized by the Celestials as powerful enough to lead a faction, Leviathan said, add on to Azar. The Celestials are the only reason why we don't engage in war on the human world instead. If we were to, we would all be erased by the Celestial, with the only exception of this is if a king has been located outside of a bloodline like you, Izuku, Azar said. Wait, so if we can't engage in war on the humans, how are the fairies able to abduct humans? Izuku asked. That's what we're still trying to figure out. It seems that they may have found a way to block the Celestials or have found a loophole around this. We need more time till we are able to find an answer to how, Azar said, taking a rather large sigh. Well then, Azar, I think it's time that we put our petty differences aside and make an alliance, Leviathan said as he held his hand out. I also think it time we end this war, Azar said as he shook hands with Leviathan. Once the two shook hands, the symbol of both the phoenix and serpent appeared before mixing together and forming a dragon. The symbol appeared above Leviathan Castle for all serpents to see, and also the Phoenix faction's kingdom, allowing both nations to know that the war was finally over. Izuku and Ignis both held a slight smirk as the two fist bumped. Leviathan, I will send you all our information on the fairies and then we'll move on from there, but as of now I must go back to my people and inform them on the current situation, Azar said, getting a nod from Leviathan. Allow me to escort you two out, Lord Azar, Izuku said, giving a bow. Azar agreed as Izuku escorted the two through the city. Azar and Ignis were quite pleased with their experience. Izuku could tell that they loved the tranquil atmosphere of the kingdom. Izuku brought the two to the north entry gates where a small squad of 8 guards were waiting for their king and prince. Before leaving with their guards, Ijins walked toward Izuku before handing him something. Izuku looked at it and it appeared to be a crystal-like object. Before you ask, it's a beacon. Apply magic to it and I'll send a signal to mine and allow me to know if you're under attack and need assistance. Likewise, mine can do the same thing, Azar said, getting a nod from Izuku. Izuku watched as the group disappeared out of view before returning back to Leon Castle, where he immediately entered Levio's room. Levios looked at Izuku before running toward his brother. What happened that Leviathan had to drag you out of bed? Levios asked, recalling this morning's events. Well, the Serpent and Phoenix factions are now in our alliance, so it was basically a diplomatic meeting. All we did was discuss what we'll do about the fairies and make the alliance. We'll be in touch with them more though, Izuku said. Wow, I'm so glad I'm not you, Levios said before chuckling. Levios suddenly put on a shy face as a blush formed on his cheeks. Hey Izuku, I need to ask you a favor, he said with a shy smile. Our later human realm. Izuku and Levios were outside the house or Toru Hagakure. Levios nervously knocked on the door. Give me a minute, they heard from the other side. Within a few minutes their classmate Toru was outside looking at the two. Oh, Izuku and Levios, what a surprise, come in, she said, grabbing the two by the arm. She pulled the two into her house, being the two to the living room. So what bring you two here? She asked. Soon asking, Levios was on his knees. Thank you for saving me, he yelled, startling her. I can't be here for this, Izuku said as he teleported away to his room. Third POV. Levios stood outside Izuku's room with a nervous look. He opened the door to see Izuku feeding Guardian. Hey bro, how are you recovering? Izuku asked as he walked toward his brother. It's going good, but can I ask you something? Levios said nervously. Yes, shoot, what's up? Izuku said, smirking. So I kinda asked Toru on a date, he said. Yeah, what else? Izuku said. Well, she said yes, but she kinda said she wanted it to be a double date so that she can meet you too, you know, Levios said, blushing. Oh, you dirty dog, I see what you're trying to do and I'll all for it. I'll tell Medusa and see if she's good with it, Izuku said as he smirked at his blushing brother. 1 hour later. Izuku and Medusa are walked toward the meet-up place Levios and Toru had told the two to come. Oh, there you two are, they were Levios say from behind them. Oh, you guys look great, Medusa said as her and Izuku circled around the two. Both Izuku and Medusa were surprised seeing that Levios had adapted rather quickly to Earthrealm culture. Hey Medusa, Toru said as the two began a conversation. Oh look, they're getting along with Medusa now, we just have to find a way to explain this to Mom, you know how she'll get, Izuku joked. This caused the hair on Levios' neck to raise as he thought back to when he asked his mom if he could have a girlfriend, and let's just say there was a thorough talk. Yeah, let's think about that later and let's go before they close, Levios said as he took charge of the group. Okay, let's guy and gals, Levios said, getting everyone to follow him. The group went toward a mall and immediately Izuku paled knowing that he'll be paying. Medusa dragged Izuku along, leaving Toru and Levios to themselves for a while. So, Izuku, what do you think about Toru and Levios? Asked his mate, causing him to pause. I think she's what Levios needs right now, plus they're cute together, don't you think? Izuku said. Yeah, but now as cute as us, Medusa said as she warped her arms around Izuku's. Someone's jealous, Izuku said, smirking as Medusa began to childishly pout. Come on, I'm just kidding, Izuku said as he warped an arm around her waist, pulling her closer to him. The two walked around the mall, going to different clothing stores where Medusa quickly became one of their favorite customers, but while Medusa was shopping she didn't notice something Izuku picked up. Medusa took Izuku to a swimwear clothing shop where she began to try on multiple bikinis and onesies, causing her mate to blush as she continued to taunt him. Hey babe, I gotta use the restroom, be back in a little bit, Izuku said, getting a nod from his mate, leaving Medusa alone near the cafeteria area. Izuku walked inside to see his crystal started glowing a bright red light. A hologram of Ignis appeared above the crystal. Izuku, I've been able to get a hold of the wolf and giant factions. We'll be having a meeting in the giant kingdom in 3 days, Ignis said. Okay, I'll inform Leviathan and we'll be there, Izuku said, getting a nod from Ijins, who ended the commutations. Izuku exited the bathroom before going to look for Medusa, and when he did find her he didn't like what he saw on Bit. Izuku saw 6 to 7 guys standing around Medusa trying to hit on her. Hey baby, sorry took me a while, Izuku said as he pushed the guys away and grabbed Medusa, said, causing her to blush. Come on girl, come with a real man like me, one of the guys said as his friends laughed. Or what? Izuku said, smirking. The guys raised his shirt high enough to show that he had a gun, but that just made Izuku laugh. Izuku looked at the guys with his eyes become black and his pupils bloodshot red. Izuku licked his fangs with his long forked tongue before directing his bloodlust toward the group, causing them to freeze in fear. Go turn yourselves in, Izuku said in a demanding tone as the group's guys followed his order, turning themselves into the nearest security guard station. Medusa looked at Izuku, surprised seeing that Izuku mind-controlled a group of guys, but was also fearful seeing Izuku's angered eyes. Are you okay? She asked as she gripped Izuku's hand tight. I'm fine, let's just meet back up before Levios does something stupid, Izuku said. Izuku and Medusa soon sweat dropped seeing Levios being thrown out of the mall, screaming, he spoiled the Demon Slayer movie for me, he deserved it. The two meet up with Toru, who was rubbing the bridge of her nose. Is he always like this? Toru asked. Oh, you haven't even seen the half of it, but he's loyal and wouldn't hurt anyone he loves outside of sparing, said Izuku as Medusa nodded. The three went outside where Levios had finally cooled down. You guys want to get this going, Levios? Said, embarrassed that he was kicked out. The three nodded, going to a maid cafe where Levios was giggling like a fool. Izuku's sweat dropped seeing that his brother was being a total weeb while on a date. He grabbed Levios' shoulder, getting his attention. Levios, I think we should go use the men's room, Izuku said, hoping Levios caught on. Wait, I don't have to go. I mean, yeah, we should, Levios said, catching on to what Izuku meant. The two left, leaving a slight confused Toru and a Medusa who wasn't fooled at all. The two entered the restroom where Izuku looked at Levios with a serious look. Look man, you're on a date and you're geeking out. Toru likes you, but you need to show her you're interested in her and not just the busta maid serving you, okay? Izuku said as he placed a hand on his shoulders. Yeah man, sorry for being an idiot, Levios said as he held his fist out for a fist bump. Of course, what are brother for? Izuku said as he fist bumped Levios. The two walked toward the table to see that Medusa and Toru were waiting for them. A waiter soon came to their table taking their orders. Toru ordered a cookie and cream cake, Medusa orders a chocolate strawberry cake, Levios ordered a half vanilla half blueberry cake while Izuku ordered a red velvet cake. The group enjoyed their cakes talking about things life and Levios' recovery. Izuku suddenly picked up the scent of multiple people who made his skin crawl. Medusa and Levios both quickly picked up on the scent as Medusa Brown grabbed Izuku's hand trying to calm him down. "We should go right," Toru said, grasping a bit of the situation. "Yes, we should," said Medusa, rising up still holding Izuku's hand. The group quickly tried to leave the restaurant, paying for their bill and booking it to the exit. The group left just slightly passing the Yagi family who were blissfully unaware. Once outside and a few blocks away, Izuku looked at Levios. Levios and Medusa walked Toru home. "Right now I don't feel up to it right now," Izuku said as he pulled out his key. As Izuku went to teleport away, Medusa grabbed his shoulder. "Why don't you make that a two-person trip?" Medusa said as she took hold of Izuku's hand. Izuku nodded as the two teleported away, but no before giving Levios the key. Izuku bedroom. Izuku and Medusa dropped on top of Izuku bed with Medusa falling into his arms. Izuku held Medusa tight to his body for few minutes before letting her go. Medusa laid up from Izuku bed looking into his green eyes. "I got you something, close your eyes," Izuku said as Medusa followed his orders. Medusa suddenly felt Izuku's arms warped around her neck before he let go. She felt a slight weight on her chest. "You can open your eyes now," Izuku whispered into her ear. Opening her eyes, Medusa was amazed at what she saw. "WW, thank you, Zuzu," she yelled excitedly as he jumped on top of him into a hug. Izuku was pinned down by the overwhelming strength of his lover but nevertheless enjoyed it. The two moved toward each other with passion in their eyes, but as they moved in to do the deed, a loud banging sound followed by moans caused the two to stop. Izuku and Medusa paled, realizing who it was, and the two swiftly left the home with Akame, who was using the best headphones she could to avoid the sounds. The three went to Leon's spare home where Akame was put to bed, but not before being fed by Izuku. Izuku and Medusa quickly went to sleep with Medusa in Izuku's arms. Middle of the night. A battlefield was littered with the body of winged people. "Don't let the Serpent Prince get to the borders," one of the winged men yelled to his men. A strong gust of wind soon brushed past as his men were diced into pieces. The leader looked horror as he could barely make out the movements of the princes. "Why are you doing this?" the man asked, knowing death was coming. "Because you threaten my home. I won't allow any of my people to die no matter what," he said as he lunged at man. The winged man was soon dead on the floor as the Serpent Prince walked away from the blood-filled battlefield. Izuku jumped away, breathing heavily and clutching his heart. He had never experienced a dream this vivid, only small glimpses. He went to the bathroom throwing water on his face, but as he looked in the mirror, something looked back, something sinners. Third POV. Izuku woke up with a smirk on his face. He went through his morning routine where he meet up with Levios in the kitchen. Both looked at each other with a smirk on their faces. "So that sport festival is today, you better win," Anna said, getting smirks from her sons. "What she means is to have a good time and put on a good show 'cause we'll be watching," Leon said, which only served to ignite a fire in the boy's eyes. Izuku and Levios meet up with Medusa, who shook her head at the pair. Both had the top-bottom of their shirts untied, while Izuku only had his bottom-down shirt and tie on. "Zuzu," Medusa said as he gave Izuku a kiss on the lip. "Get a room, you two," Levios said as he fake barfed. This got him a glare from Medusa and Izuku. "Let's just go already," Levios said, sighing. Izuku nodded, opening a portal a few blocks away from UA. The group walked in UA in high spirits till they entered class. Upon entering class, Izuku gave everyone in the room a death-piercing glare. The class all put their heads down in shame. The group sat down on the opposite side of the classroom. Levios had told Izuku what had happened, and that caused Izuku and Medusa to lose all respect for the class. Izuku took his phone out of his pocket and his headphones and began listening to music. He put his head down. "Hey Medusa, can you wake me up when Aizawa enters the room?" he asked, getting a nod from Medusa. "Okay, my love," she said, giving Izuku a peck on the cheek, causing him to turn a scarlet red. Levios chuckled at the two before also going to sleep. The two didn't get to sleep for long as Aizawa came into the room covered in bandages. The class gasped seeing their teacher. "Mr. Aizawa, are you sure you can work in like this?" Ida asked. "I'm fine and we have more important business," Aizawa said, getting serious. The class all froze minus the sleeping brothers and Medusa, who all couldn't give a shit. "Today, one of the most important events of your hero careers is taking place. The sports festival," Aizawa said. "Oh, good normal school thing," the class all said. "If you think you can take this easy, then you're wrong. The sport festival is where hundreds of hero agencies, your families and all of Japan will watch you compete against one another," Aizawa said. The class immediately became quiet and focused in on Aizawa. "Okay, we're going to be taking a bus to the stadium in 30 minutes. Hurry and changes in the locker rooms and get to the buses or you will not be practicing," Aizawa said as he left out the classroom. The class quickly funneled out of the room, leaving the three Serpentine to themselves. "Were you able to find her?" Medusa asked, looking at Izuku, who opened his eyes. "Oh, I couldn't pick up her presence anywhere, but for now I know that she isn't in the building," Izuku said as he and Levios stood up. "Levios, what about you?" Izuku asked, looking at his brother. Levios' eyes were glowing a crimson red before turning back. "Oh, I wasn't able to sense her, but I did pick up trace amounts of her magic around the school," Levios said, but Izuku could tell something was up. Izuku knew that Levios was better at picking up magic than Izuku and Medusa, but he also knew when his brother was lying, but he also trusted Levi's judgment. Izuku decided to let Levios tell when he's ready or figures it out. The three got up and walked toward the locker room. Izuku and Levios and Izuku both went into the guys' room while Medusa rushed into the girls'. While changing, most of the guys couldn't take their eyes off the brothers. Izuku and Levios were both ripped with lean physique and a good amount of muscle mass. The brothers' muscles were well defined, with you being able to see through their shirts, and their abs were godlike. Inside the girls' locker room, everyone was looking at Medusa. No one could deny how beautiful she was. Her athletic build with her nice curves and beast made all of them jealous. Topped with the fact that she was dating Izuku made everyone envious of her. Medusa looked at Izumi to see that her venom had finally wear off and that Izumi was mostly back together. She sighed, walking out of the locker room in her sport festival uniform, which felt tight. She walked over to Izuku, who immediately passed out from a nosebleed. Levizo laughed before waking up his brother. "That uniform is too tight on you," Izuku said, blushing. Medusa smirked. "So does it look good on me?" she said, striking a pose. Izuku composed himself before pushing her toward the buses. "Let's just go already," Izuku said, blushing. Medusa smirked but also was a bit worried. She saw one of Izuku's scars sticking out from his shirt on his neck. "Izuku, your neck," she whispered, causing him to pause. Izuku looked to see one of his scars was showing. "It's fine. I'll reapply the cover when we have a break," he said, covering it with his hand. "I say keep it. It makes you look hot," she said, blushing. Izuku smiled as he gave her a kiss on the forehead. "Like seriously? Get a room," Levizo said, getting a glare from the lovebirds. The three walked toward the rest of their class, who were all waiting next to the buses. "Did you guys pick a class rep?" Aizawa asked, to which the class shook their heads. Aizawa sighed. "Okay, we're just gonna draw a lot," he said, pulling out a cup with multiple stick. Everyone picked a stick, and in the end Izuku and Medusa had both cheated to get rep. "Okay, Medusa will be class rep with Izuku and the vice rep," Aizawa said, getting a nod. "Now will the class reps seat everyone into the buses?" Izuku and Medusa got everyone into the buses before sitting down. Izuku instantly went back to searching for Ibra, and Levizo did the same. Izuku was searched but fell asleep, where he was pulled into another dream. He saw someone who looked just like him hugging a dead body of a woman. Tear fell down his face as he hugged the body closer. The man then looked back, causing Izuku to gasp as he looked especially like him, and the body he was holding was Medusa. Izuku jumped away, surprising Medusa. "Are you okay?" she whispered, leaning over to him. "Yeah, but I had another one of those dreams," he said. "We'll tell my father about this later, all right?" she said, getting a nod. 20 minutes later. The classes of UA-1A were waiting for everything to start. "Okay, can we get a hand for our class 1A students?" Midnight yelled over to Mike. The crowd immediately burst into a roar as Class 1A walked out of the tunnel. "That my babies," Anna and Minerva both yelled, wearing shirts with the three faces on them. The three serpents out their heads down, feeling embarrassed. "Well, look at those there after mama babies," Mike said as the crowd burst into the laughter, causing the three to duck their heads. Class 1A walked toward the podium that the other classes were standing on. "Okay, can we get the class rep of 1A to say a few words?" Midnight said. Izuku smirked at Medusa, walked up toward the podium. "Hello everyone, my name is Medusa Apex and I'm the class rep of 1A, so can we get a round of applause for our classes?" she said, smiling, getting the crowd to cheer. "We've all worked hard and here today we're going to show you all we've worked toward, but I have a question," she said, smirked and causing everyone to stare at her. "I just want to know who'll be taking second place because I'm gonna win this thing," she said, giving a cocky smirk. The crowd burst into a rage, yelling at her, but the dominating aura of Minerva shut everyone up. "Don't worry baby girl, mama's rooting for ya," she yelled, causing Medusa to blush. She walked off the podium, getting glares from the other class, which he responded to by releasing a bit of her aura. Medusa walked back to Izuku and Leviso, who were smirking. Izuku then slid Leviso $20. "Told you she'd do something like this," he said, getting a groan from Izuku. A wheel appeared on the giant screen with Midnight spinning it. The wheel landed on obstacles course and the students were soon lead to one. "Okay, on your march, get set, go," she yelled as the student ran into the tunnel. Class 1A jumped into the air, dodging being frozen by the Todoroki twins. Izuku, Medusa and Leviso waited a few seconds, causing the crowd to look at them. "Aizawa, those three sure are cocky. Might want to fix that," Mike said. "I couldn't even if I wanted to," Aizawa said, groaning. Izuku group waited till everyone was in the tunnel, seeing that half of the participants were blocked out. Izuku channeled ice magic underneath himself, launching him above the tunnel, with Levios creating a tower of earth to get over the tunnel and Medusa using wind to get above the tunnel. The three landed with a barrel roll and broke into a sprint. A giant shadow was casted over the group as the massive zero-point machines were ahead. One of the zero-pointers sent its fist toward Izuku. Izuku held out his arm, catching the zero-pointer's fist. A puff of blue aura exploded from the collision as shards of Izuku began to explode from within the zero, causing it to fall over. "Special move, collision impact," Izuku said, holding his right arm, which was covered in ice. Leviso smirked as prepared his move. As the zero-pointer's arm came towards him, he jumped onto its arms. He jumped toward the head, and just as he was about to touch it, a large magic circle formed in front of his hand. A massive spike of earth pierced right through the zero-pointer's head. "Special move, burst," Leviso said as he landed behind the robot. The last zero-pointer was about to step on Medusa, who was standing still with her arms crossed. As the zero-pointer's foot came down, or Medusa, it stopped as the entire machine was turned to stone. Medusa then blew a kiss at the machine as it fell over, turning into dust. "Special move, deadly kiss," Medusa said as she began running to catch up with Izuku and Levios. The crowd roared at the display of power by the three, but none were louder than the two serpent moms and Akame. The three made it to the canyon zone where Izuku felt cold then heat. Shoto had frozen his legs and Katsuki had hit him in the back with a large explosion. Izuku was blaster forward but managed to catch himself. He landed on a pillar before flipping backwards onto another. He brought his arms but to guard against a kick from Ida, which sent him crashing into another pillar. Izuku managed to grab hold of a pillar and pulled himself back up. Leviso and Medusa both stopped running and turned around and helped Izuku up. "Keep running, everyone is catching up," Izuku said as they began running toward the finish line. Izuku's eyes were red with rage, but he kept himself under control. As the group ran, they saw that pieces of earth and the zero-pointer were being thrown at them. The three quickly dodged and turned around to see Izumi, who was using her telekinesis to throw objects at them. "Leviso, give me a force field," Izuku said, getting a nod. Leviso began to expand his magic aura outward, creating a bubble around the three which was blocking the projectiles. The three managed to make it to the third obstacle, which was a minefield. Izuku and Medusa both stuck their hand out, infusing their magic into the Leviso force field as they ran right through the minefield. The group were making good progress, but the large explosion were taking a toll on the barrier, but the three were nearly at the end. The force field was suddenly knocked forward and began to quake by a combined explosion by the Bakugo twins, but it was too late as the three had already crossed into the tunnel. And look at the ladies and gentlemen, first place is a tie between Izuku and Leviso Serpentine and Medusa Apex, Midnight said, getting the crow to cheer. Before Izuku could celebrate, he sensed danger. He looked to see Katsuki getting ready to blast Medusa with an point-blank explosion. He jumped in front Medusa, taking the full blunt of the explosion. The crow gasped seeing this, but also shocked in fear as Izuku stood up. Before Katsuki knew it, he was encased in ice as Izuku waves his arm, creating a wall of ice which encased Katsuki and blocked off the finish line. Izuku looked at Katsumi, who was also going to attack Medusa, with a look that screamed, "Try it and you're died." Izuku looked at Medusa, who ran towards him. "It's okay, Zuzu, so you can unfreeze him now," she said, even though she wanted to kill him herself. Izuku took a deep breath before snapping his fingers as the ice bursted into the snow. Izuku walked to the waiting room with his fist clenched, with Leviso and Medusa following him as Katsuki was taken to the infirmary for frostbite. Leon and Leviathan both sensed a great magical presence from within the stands. The two both had a bad feeling. Looking at each other, they nodded as Leon stood up. "Where are you, Jing love?" Anna said as Leon leaned down to her. "Protect Akame. Me and Leviathan picked up a power aura a moment ago," he whispered into her ear. "Do you think it an attack?" she whispered back. "We don't know, but protect Akame if it comes to it. I'll go let Izuku know," he said as he left to the waiting rooms. Leviathan sighed in the stands as the only thing that could create that type of aura, another king. Third POV. Izuku sat at a table with Levios and Medusa. He was still pissed about Katsuki attacking Medusa. His eyes were still bloodshot red while he clenched his fist. He was even more pissed that Katsuki was still allowed to participate in the festival even though he attacked Medusa, and even worse, Izuku was given a strike for excessive force. This sports festival was starting to piss him off. Izuku was broken out of his rage state by Medusa, who wrapped her arms around Izuku's neck. Izuku blushed, feeling Medusa beast on his back. Medusa grabbed Izuku's hand and interlocked their fingers. "It's fine, Lance, don't worry about it," she said, calming Izuku. Izuku sighed. His eyes turned back to their usual color. "Fine, but I'm gonna take a leak," Izuku said as he stood up. "I'll come with," Leviso said as he followed his brother. The two soon felt an ominous presence. They stopped dead in their tracks. This incredible power caused the two to freeze. The two both took a breath in and slowly exhaled. "Someone is watching up," Leviso said as he got himself under control. Izuku nodded and gestured for Leviso to follow him to the bathroom. The two opened the door to see Leviathan and Leon waiting for them. Izuku and Leviso watched as Leon placed a silence seal on the restrooms while Izuku locked the doors. "I guess you two sensed it as well?" Izuku asked, getting a nod from the two. "Yes, and I have a plan to deal with it," Leviathan said, getting the two young serpents' attention. "We'll wait for them to attack. Once they attack the heroes, we'll most likely have everyone evacuate the stadium, prioritizing the citizens first," he said, getting nods. "While the heroes' evacuation, everyone will hold them off, and once everyone is outside, we'll seal the stadium off, and I'll teleport the stadium to the Serpent territory," Leviathan said, getting shocked expressions. "Sire, are you insane?" Leon yelled, surprising the room. "Not only will we be endangering out people, but we'd also be exposing the Serpent territory to the human realm." "I know, and I've planned for that," he said, getting Leon's attention. "Once I teleport, everyone will have to lead the other kings away. That means we'll be bait. We'll lead them farther out of our territory," he said. "Once we're farther enough, we'll have our army come to aid us, and then we'll commence our counterattack," Leviathan said. "This is all good, but what are we going to do once we've beaten everyone and the humans know about our existence?" Izuku asked. "Have any one of you ever heard of illusions magic?" Leviathan said, getting nods. "But have you heard of mind magic?" To which Izuku and Leviso shook their heads. "I see. You plan to use illusion and mind magic to erase the humans' memory before returning them home," Leon said, getting a nod. The four of them worked on the details of the plan before exiting the bathroom. A few people who were pissed about the bathroom line looked at them. "What, you never seems four guys in the bathroom before?" Izuku said, getting questionable looks. "Lance, Just shut up please, Leviso said. Izuku nodded as he and Leviso left back to the waiting room. Izuku and Leviso quickly informed Medusa, who nodded. We should probably not use our full power so that the enemy doesn't know our abilities, Izuku said, getting nods from everyone. Izuku and crew soon went to stadium where the next event was about to commence. Hello ladies and gentlemen, we are excited for our next event, the cavalry battle, Midnight said, getting the crowd to roar in excitement. The classes started to walk out with Izuku and Leviso having confident smirks. For this event everyone who'll break up into teams with at least on riders. The max amount of students on a team is 4, Midnight said. The students were given 15 minutes to form a team, but there's certain serpents knew we're planning something. Izuku, Leviso and Medusa were a team, with Izuku and Leviso being the chariot while Medusa was the rider. Izuku was given his 1 million points and warped the while Medusa and Leviso gave away their points and by giveaway burnt them with magic. Izuku looked around and saw one person. He then came up with an plan. Hey Medusa, change of plans, you'll be a part of the chariot, Izuku said, getting a confused look. Then who'll be the rider? Medusa asked, but then realized what Izuku was planning. Leviso, get your girlfriend over here, Medusa ordered. She's not my girlfriend, Leviso said, blushing as he turned his head. Just go get here, Medusa said, pushing him away. A minute later Leviso returned with an confused Toru. Hey Toru, how would you like to join our team? Medusa said, smiling. Well, better than not having a team, so why not? She said in a cheerful tone. Izuku came up with an idea but wanted to get Leviso's opinion first. The three lifted Toru on top of their back. A bell rang signaling that time was up. Okay everyone, time's up. Now when the timer hits 0 everyone starts. Crowd, start watching because it's time to start, Midnight said, getting the crowd to cheer. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A pistol was fired into the air, starting off the event. Izuku teams looked to see everyone was staring at them for their points. The three smirked as sparks began to fly around them. Before anyone knew it, they were behind most of the teams. A few teams were knocked down by a massive gust of wind, but something happened. Something Izuku, not anyone on his team, could have thought of. A sudden surge of magic and an explosion caught Izuku off guard as he was blasted away from his teams. Izuku was blown through the air. He managed to get his composure mid-air and back-filled, landing on his feet and sliding back. His arms singed with second-degree burns. Most of the crowd gasped, seeing what's just happened, with the parents turning their children's heads. Izuku's eyes widened from what he sensed. It was magic, but not any old magic. It was King's magic. He saw Katsuki and Katsumi's hand glow a bright blue before their explosions. Lance, you okay? Leviso asked, getting a thumbs up from Izuku. Levios, Medusa. I sensed magic coming from them, Izuku said, getting shocked expressions. Leviathan, Anna, Leon and Minerva were also shocked in how a human could have magic. Of course Izuku had it, but he was an exception. Leviathan, Minerva said. I know, and I can smell that ratcheted fairies scent all over them, Leviathan said angrily. He's going to expose our realm, Leon said. While everyone else was concerned about the magic, Anna was concerned with Akame. She was only 7 years old and couldn't even use magic properly. To top it off, she was crying seeing Izuku. Is Big Brother Izuku okay? Akame asked, looking at her mother. Tears formed in her eyes. Izuku's arms dropped to his sides. He turned his head toward the crowd and looked at Akame. Don't worry sis, Big Bro's okay, Izuku said, giving her a warm smile. Izuku turned back to Bakugo, glaring at him. His eyes turned red. Leviso also let go of Toru, leaving Medusa to protect Toru. He walked next to Izuku, cracking his knuckles. You ready? Leviso asked. Yeah, let's kick some ass, Izuku said, smirking. Katsumi walked next to Katsuki, with Shoto and Shoka leaving their teams. Both Serpentine brothers smirked. You take the time bombs, Leviso said. And you'll take the ice FS, Izuku said as lightning sparked around him. Wind began to swirl around Leviso as he stuck his right hand out. A barrier formed around the four, locking them for the outside. This is unbelievable. Never seen before. We're having not one but two 2v1 fights at the same time, Mike yelled over the microphone. Izuku vs. Explosion Beaches. Izuku vanished from Leviso said appearing in between the two siblings. Izuku crossed his arms as he held both hands out channeling lightning into his palms. He smirked as he had been dying to try out some of his new spells. Voltage discharge. Izuku yelled as he threw both his hands up into the air. A wave of electricity exploded from Izuku throwing the two back. Izuku looked in surprise as he saw that the two had withstood his attack and in fact launched a counterattack. The two came at Izuku with Katsuki going high and Katsumi going low. Izuku jumped twisting mid-air to dodge the attack. The two quickly turned around propelling themselves toward him. The two managed to break Izuku guard with Katsuki planting an explosion in Izuku's chest and Katsumi kicking him away. As Izuku flew back, the two began to attack him so fast that they looked mini balls of flames. It wasn't until Izuku saw the sparks flying off their explosion that he realized that the two were infusing lightning magic into their attacks. Blasting Izuku back once again, the two disappeared before appearing on each side of Izuku. Die full power lightning blast, the two yelled as they sent massive explosion toward Izuku. The explosion caused a massive smoke cloud to cover the area. Leviso vs. Ice FS. Shoto and Shoka both sent a massive iceberg toward Leviso, but when the attack came near Levios, he simply swiped his hand. Spears of water appeared in the air before tearing the icebergs apart. The Tadu twins tried to up a wall of ice to block attack but were forced to dodge when the attack pierced through. The two recovered from and went on the counterattack. The two both sent a wave of fire toward Leviso, slammed his hands on the ground. Earth Dome, he said as a dome of earth appeared around him. When the attack subsided, Leviso video was blurred by a smokescreen. Izuku. Levios, Izuku yelled, getting his brother's attention. Yeah, I know, Leviso said as he appeared next to his brother. Let's send these F to hell, both said as lightning began to spark around Izuku and wind swirled around Leviso. The smoke was dispersed by the brothers' aura, allowing everyone to see them. Katsumi, Katsuki, Shoto and Shoka vanished, reappearing in front of the two brothers, but they could only see the smirks on their faces before they vanished. The two appeared on side of the four with Izuku in his king form and Levios in his royal guard form. The two somehow kicked the four into the air with Izuku launching a ball of lightning into the air past them. The sky darkened with rain falling. Leviso smirked as he manipulated the rain, catching the four in their attack. A sphere of water formed around the four, trapping them. Izuku smirked as he launched another ball of lightning at the sphere. But as this ball of lightning neared its target, it got larger and larger till it was the same size of the sphere. The two spheres merged into one, turning completely white. Everything was silent until the distorted screams of the four inside could be heard. Now fall, Leviso yelled as he slammed his hands down onto the ground. The sphere came crashing down onto the ground, resulting in the water going everywhere. At that very moment the bell ringed, signaling end of the second event of the festival. The barrier dropped with Izuku turning to Leviso, who was falling over. Izuku caught his brother in his arms. He smiled seeing the sleeping face of his brother. Good work, bro, he whispered as he lifted his brother over his shoulder. Izuku looked around to see the other contestants were either up to their necks in stone or were knocked out. Izuku then noticed something. Everyone was quiet, and after the show he and Levios put on, he was confused. Izuku, your shirt, Medusa said as he pointed at Izuku. Izuku looked down and nearly fainted. The top half of his sports festival uniform had been blown off, revealing all his scars. And it was here that Izuku relapsed into his former self. Time seemed to stop for Izuku as he stared at his many scars. Burn scars from Bakuga's explosions, frostbite from the Shotos, bruises and compound fractures from Ilda's kicks, cuts and stab wounds from Momo's creations. He could remember when he got these scars. The rage he felt, the pain, the course through him, and the depressing truth that no one cared. He could remember looking at himself in disgust, hating himself because he couldn't do nothing, blaming the world that allowed kind people like him to be born powerless, while giving people like Izumi the power to hurt others. That's what he had believed until he met Leviathan. Upon meeting Leviathan, his whole life changed. Leviathan made him strong, made him confident, he made him into everything he wanted. And most importantly, he gave Izuku a real family. Izuku looked around at his family, seeing the worried faces. His love Medusa had a concerned look on her face. He then looked back down at his scars as a smile crept on his face. Then, Izuku looked around. Everything was still frozen. 10 seconds passed. Then a minute. Finally 5 minutes passed, and now Izuku knew something was up. He slammed his foot on the ground. His magic spiked as everything became distorted. The world seemed to be teared apart. The sound of multiple people clapping alerted him. I seemed you've been able to break my ability, a voice said. A dark-skinned man walked out of the shadows. The man was tall, standing at 6'2", with dark brown skin. Black dreads, going to the back of his head, with 3 in the front of his head. He was shirtless, wearing only black cargo jeans. Golden gauntlet wrapped around each of his arms. His hair was still black, matching the black tattoos on his body. Akin to Izuku, multiple scars littered his body. Dangle earrings with the kanji dragon and slayer were imprinted on the earrings. His eyes were a fiery crimson, with black dots on the outer ends. A smirk was plastered on his handsome face. When Izuku looked at him, he couldn't help but feel like he'd seen him before. The pain and suffering behind his cold, stoic eyes. "Who the hell are you, and what did you do?" Izuku said. His magic was starting to flare. "Calm down," the mysterious guy said. "After all, I'm not here to fight a friend," he finished. Izuku looked at him confused. "Just who the hell are you?" Izuku said. "Oh, I'm hurt," he said, fake crying. "After all, I'm one of the only people who can understand your suffering." Izuku was tired of this. He vanished before reappearing in front of the mysterious person. He threw punch toward the man, but he simply moved his head out the way. "Wow, you're fast. I'd expect nothing less from Leon's son, but a more fitting name would be Leviathan's successor," he said. "You sure do talk a lot," Izuku said. His magic aura began to surround him. "Less talk and more fighting." Izuku charged the man with a barrage of quick attacks. To Izuku's utter shock, the mysterious person avoided all of his attack. Not to mention that the mysterious person had yet to activate his magic. Izuku managed to land a punch to the abdomen, which managed to send the man sliding back. "Wow, Izuku, you really pack a punch, huh?" he said, chuckling. "Thought you're throwing around too much power?" "What the hell is up with this guy?" Izuku thought. "He's dodging all my attacks and he's even complimented me." Izuku jumped back and took a sigh. He looked at the man. "Are you a part of Ibra's alliance?" Izuku asked. The man seemed to tense up a bit. "I ally with no faction. In fact, I quite despise her. Her goal is idiotic. She wants all other races to perish but won't allow her own to. It's quite pathetic if you ask me," he said. "Then why are you here?" Izuku asked. "Well, it's quite simply," he said. "I want a fan's revenge on the one who made my life a living hell. That include that sister of yours and her friend, plus," he paused before continuing. "And it include my faction's king, but he's already been dealt with," he said. Izuku looked at him. His body frozen and his mouth went dry. His mind raced like lightning. "You killed a king?" Izuku asked. "So what the bastard had it coming, he did with Leviathan is doing to you," he said. For once his childish persona was gone, and the rage in his eyes sparked. "And what is that?" Izuku asked. "That's for you to find out," he said. The man walked off the stage. Everything began to crack around them. "It seems you still haven't remembered me, hero, but I guess it okay," he said. He turned around looking at Izuku. "I'll tell you one thing before I go," he said. "My attack will start soon and even Ibra won't be able to stop me, but you and whoever you love will be spared," he said. A crazed look appeared in his eyes. "When I'm done, nothing will be left. Not a king nor celestial," he said as he vanished in a red smoke. Izuku watched as the smoke withered away. It was then that he felt a tug on his arm. He turned around to see Medusa. She quickly enveloped Izuku in a hug, thinking he was close to a breakdown, but when she looked up at him, a smile was on his face. Izuku rubbed her cheek with his thumb. "No need to worry," he said. A huge smile on his face. "After all, these scars are evidence of my survival," he boldly said. Medusa and Anna teared up a bit, while Minerva, Leviathan, Levios and Leon had a look of pride. The heartfelt moment was soon interrupted as the sky darkened. Thunder and rain instantly fell as a sphere of blue magic appeared overhead. The Serpentine became wary, channeling magic around their bodies. Heroes jumped down to confront the stage sphere with all might leading the charge. Leon, Leviathan yelled over the cries of the panicking civilians. Leon took a deep inhale before exhaling a blue mist. The mist covered the entire stadium, minus the fighting arena. The civilians' eyes became dull as their moments ceased. Leon's spell had taken effects, and now only the heroes and Serpent remains conscious. Leon looked at Leviathan, who nodded in response. He began to channel a golden aura around the festival stadium, only for that magic to cease. "Father, the spell?" Izuku asked, sensing the disturbance in magic. "It's fine, Leon," Leviathan commanded. "When the spell is released, the humans won't remember a thing." Leon nodded before the group walked down to the stage. Stepping onto the stage, the group braced themselves due to the powerful magic waves being emitted from the sphere. The magic levels of the sphere was equal to the power of at least third kings, while still seeming suppressed. It was then that Serpents realized that the heroes had passed out from the magical pressure. The Serpents looked up as 10 cloaked figures escaped from the portal. The cloaked figures formed 2 lines of 5, before the last figure escaped through the portal. The last figure walked down the aisle, stopping before Leviathan. He stuck his hand out, with Leviathan taking it. Upon the 2 grasping hands, everyone shielded themselves from the massively strong winds. Izuku, Levios and Medusa were nearly blown away, while Leon held onto Anna and Akame. Leviathan had a look of shock on his face, not expecting someone to match his power. His shock turned to a smirk, as he had one single thought in his mind. Maybe he'll be a worthy challenge. "Just who are you?" Leviathan asked. His smirk turned into a slightly crazed smile. "I'm King of Apes," the cloaked man said. "But what's the point in telling a dead man my name?" he pondered. The 2 began to release more magic, causing an explosion of magic around the 2. Izuku and company, plus the 10 cloaked figures, jumped back. The explosion caused a brilliant rays of light to shine. Izuku looked past light, shielding his eyes, only to see the cloaked leader's hood had been blown away. The person Izuku shocked him to no end. Leviathans looked in shock seeing someone so young. "Well, this just got more interesting," Leviathan laughed. "Now we present." Leviathan smiled as he grabbed the hoodie man's hand tighter. His hands began to have blue sparks. The King of Apes quickly jumped back, barely avoiding having his hand blew off from Leviathan's hand explosion. "What a dirty truck for a king. That could have blown my hand off if I wasn't quick enough," King of Apes said. Leviathans laughed. "If you hadn't dodged that attack, then I would have been disappointed," the king spoke arrogantly. King of Apes vanished before reappearing in front of Leviathan. King of Apes extended his palm outwards toward. A red and black magic circle appeared in of him, with a phoenix design. "Scarlet Flame," Ape King called out. Scarlet red flames flew from the circle, with lightning fast speed. The flames devoured everything in its wake, scorching the arena and melting the cement. "Father," Medusa yelled as she tired to run to her father. Before Medusa could run into danger, her mother grasped her hand. When a tearful Medusa turned to her mother, she paused at what she saw. When she looked deep into her mother's emerald green eyes, she saw unwavering confidence. The type confidence you only have in someone after years of partnership. "Medusa, your father is our king. He gives us strength in our darkness moments. He allows us to pull ourselves together, because he is our light, he is our king." Minerva's words sent a surge of pride through the group, but her speech also resonated something within Izuku. Izuku's magic sparked to life as looked to everyone else. "This Leviathan's fight. So the most we can do is give our king, so the least we can do is support him," he commanded. "Mother, I need you to take Akame to safety after that. Escort the humans out of the stadium. Paramedics are most likely outside the building already," Izuku said. "Levios," I said, getting his attention. "I need you to do what we did in the USJ, and separate us from Leviathan and that man. Once the barrier is up, Me, Father, Queen Minerva, and Medusa will all take on 2 of the hooded people, I said. The group were surprised by Izuku's leadership. Leon looked at Izuku feeling pride swell within his heart. You reminded me so much of Leviathan Lance, Leon thought inside his head. Mom, once the barrier is up, start evacuating the civilians, Levizo said. The group then looked toward the king's fight. Smoke enveloped Leviathan's body from Ape King's attack, while Ape King stood a few feet away. Ape King instinct took over as he jumped back, narrowly dodging an attack from Leviathan. Is that all you have to offer, King of Apes? Leviathan asked. Dusting ash off his clothing, he threw Ape's king cloak aside. So this is what the King of Apes look like, Leviathan cockily said. The man who stood in front is Leviathan was small, standing at 5'10" to Leviathan's 8 foot. Thick black hair, with cold dark eyes, and orange eyeshadow under his eyes. A scar from ran vertically through his right eye, while the kanji for king was written over his left eye. He wore black armored leggings with black sandals. His beard was thinly cut, connecting his sides, and mustache, image a King Vegeta-like beard, just without the bottom. Both kings stood just a few feet away from each other. King of Apes' hand bursted into flames, as he attacked Leviathan with a flurry of attacks. Kong's Heavenly Fist Chapter 1. Sacred Flames 10 strikes. King of Apes speed toward Leviathan at breakneck speeds. Before he can react, Leviathan was struck in the face. Ape King then vanished again before appearing on Leviathan's side, landing a punch that sends him rocketing. Before Leviathan could recover, Ape King appeared in front of him, kicking him into air, and then punching him back down. When Leviathan stood back up, he was met with 5 fiery punches, landing to his temple, both shoulders and chest, before appearing behind him and landing hits to the spine and back of the head. The force of Ape's attacks sent Leviathan crashing into the stadium walls. Leviathan slumped back into the wall, as the white of his eyes appeared. Ape King appeared in front of Leviathan, disappointment clearly on his face. Is this really all the King of Serpents has to offer? He said, looking down at Leviathan. Suddenly, to his surprise, Leviathan began to laugh. A red aura began to surround the bloodied king. It's been ages since I felt my blood boil like this, he said, laughing like a madman. Suddenly Ape King's instincts kicked in, as he jumped back, narrowing, avoiding Leviathan's water tendrils. The tendrils stuck fast like lightning, while striking harder the steel and having swing viciously. Ape King landed, holding his side in pain. He looked at his hand to see it covered in blood. He merely grazed me, and yet I've reduced to suck a state, Ape King mentally screamed. I thought I recognized that fighting style, Leviathan said. A nightmarish Leviathan's red aura began to surround the king, as his eyes turned crimson, emanating a fiery aura as he smiled a devilish grin. If I fighting the legendary ape, then I have no needs to hold back, Leviathan chuckled as he stood up from the hole in the wall. When Leviathan arose, his body was covered in red scales outlining his chest and face. His hands morphed into what seemed like dragons-like gauntlets. Izuku, watch Leviathan right now, Leon spoke. What you're seeing right now is Leviathan's true power as the closest serpent to becoming a dragon. Izuku watched Leviathan intently. The power and authority coming off the Leviathan sent chills up Izuku's spine. Will then I, Sun Wukong, the leader of the ape factions, will hereby fight at my full power, Ape said. His body began to glow as he began to morph and his power spiked. Wind began to generate around him as the light vanished. His body had changed from his first appearance. Gold armor, bulging muscles. It's been a while since I've faced someone this strong. Will I even be able to go all out? Kong asked himself. He put his hand next to his ear, contacting his second in command. White Horse, can you hear me? Kong asked through a mental link. Yes, brother, loud and clear, one of the hooded men said. To my side, this one may give me some trouble, Kong explained. Immediately one of the hooded men jumped away from the rest. He ran to his king's side, but before he could reach Kong's side, Leon intercepted him, with a thunderous kick to the stomach. Thou shalt not stand in the way of Thou's lord, Leon spoke in a broken English. Leviathan's quirked his brow as he realized that Leon would be going all out from the beginning. Leon summoned his lance and Spartan shield. His hoplite armor appeared around his body. "You shall meet your end here," Leon said. The other hooded figure began to move, but a sudden spike in magic alerted them. Minerva had here hand outspoken. "Levios, save your magic, I'll handle this part," Minerva said. "Get ready to jump," she yelled to them. As soon the Izuku, Leviso, and Medusa felt Minerva magic release by the sleights, they jumped back. "Kuren's garden immersion," Minerva called out. Immediately, thick green vines the size of building erupted from under the stadium. The entire stadium was covered in trees, plants, and vegetation that separated everyone into different sections. Now with this, the true battle began. Leviso drew his sword, standing sideways, with his sword held low in his left hand. He took a deep breath in, before a deep exhale. He looked at the sword, before facing his enemy. "Father, Mother, everyone be safe. I'll rejoin you all soon. I just have to end this fast." He looked down at his sword. A black and sliver hilt, with a cold steel black blade. The curved edge had a silver edge. A image of an serpent was engraved in a bright green, going down the body of his katana. His eyes glanced toward his enemy. Both seemed to be human, as he didn't sense or see any abnormalities in their bodies. One was a tall, slender man with cold black eyes and dark white short hair. Pale, almost gray skin, with a scar over his right eye. He held two black daggers, with strange engravings in each hand. He wore lightweight, black armor. The other was a male, short but massive in size, fat man. His hair was black and unkempt. His eyes a cold brown. His skin white but covered in dirt. He wore bulky, dark green armor. He reeked of alcohol and emitted a feral odor. "Damn it, author, why do I always have to fight the weird people?" Leviso cursed. In another plane of existence, a handyman was repairing a wall. He suddenly looked toward the readers. "What, it's been months since he's broke the fourth wall, I'll let it slid this time," he said. Another hole appeared as he realized he also broke the fourth wall. He cursed Leviso under his breath as he began to work. Leviso suddenly sneezed as he felt as if a higher power was cursing him. He shook his head before, gripping his sword tighter. "Damn it, Vince, I thought we were gonna get the queen," the drunken man said. "It would have been fun to play with her. I also wanted to play around with her. I would have loved to hear her scream as I sliced her apart. But at last, Dale, we have to deal with him," Vince said. Leviso began to laugh, causing the two to look at him bizarrely. Leviso laughing became darker, as his magic slowly raised. "If you two think you're going to survive long enough to see my queen," Leviso said, raising his head so that they meet his bloodlust eyes, "then you are bigger fool than I thought." Vince looked at Leviso with rage-filled eyes. "I'll kill you." He charged at Leviso, drawing his dagger. Vince slashed downwards toward Levios, who sidestepped the attack. Vince spun around and slashed again at Leviso, nicking his left cheek. Vince began a heavy barrage of strike, which Levios began to block. Vince went for a strike to Levios' throat, but the serpent blocked just in time, batting away Vince's dagger. Before Vince could counterattack, Leviso slashed him across the chest. Leviso jumped back, never taking his eyes of Vince. Leviso had a few small cuts, but all around he was perfectly fine. He looked around finding Vincent, but he couldn't see the other guy. Leviso's senses kicked in, but it was already too late. As he turned his head to the left, he was struck hard by Dale's hammer. The impact flung Leviso off his feet and into the air. "Take this bastard, blood crush," Vince yelled as he appeared above him. The blood from Vince's chest formed into a red sphere of blood. Vince threw the sphere with turned into a slash of red. The attack ripped through Leviso's back, while sending him spiraling into the ground. A 10 crater formed, due to the impact. Levios coughed up blood as he picked himself up out of the crater. He clutched his left side in pain, as he glared at the two. "Looks like he's was all talk, huh, Vince?" Dale said smugly. Vince laughed next to his teammate. "It seems I'll have to take them seriously," Levios said to himself. He cracked his neck and fingers, while spitting out a glob of blood. The pale bastard can use blood magic, plus he's fast, while the fat bastard is the power, he though, forming a plan in his head. Leviso stabbed his sword into the ground, channeling earth and water magic into the ground, never taking his eyes off his opponents. "You really think we'd let you prepare an attack, kid?" Dale yelled as he charged toward Leviso. The man missed the smirk on Leviso's face, which his partner. "Dale, stop," he yelled out, but it was already too late. The ground under Dale's feet became mush as he was dragged under. He shouted for Vince's help, but it was futile as he was quickly dragged under. His gurgles was the last thing heard, as bubbles floated from the top. Vince looked at his falling teammate, who was suffocated in Livio's trap. "Bastard," called out as he ran toward Leviso. Leviso deflected the strike, spinning on his left leg and landing a kick to Vince's jaw. Vince staggered backwards, allowing Leviso to sweep his legs. Vince found himself upside down as Leviso slammed his foot in his jaw. Leviso then struck Vince with a palm strike to the stomach, sending Vince flying backwards. Vince doubled over in pain as Livio's ran over to him. Leviso stood over him with his sword ready to end the man. Suddenly a shadow loomed over Leviso as Vince gave a bloody smirk. "You shouldn't have looked down on me," Livio's heard Dale yelled. Dale swung his mighty hammer down toward Leviso, never seeing the smirk in Leviso's face. Leviso vanished in a swirl of water, just as Dale's hammer came down. Unable to move his body, Vince was struck with the full force of Dale's hammer. Vince screamed in pain, as the sound of his ribs being cracked ranged all through the stadium. Leviso grimaced at the sight, feeling a slight sickness in his stomach. Dale looked at Vince, whose mouth was foaming red. He nearly threw up at the sight, but then his disgust turned to rage. This all your fault," he yelled as he turned to Leviso. He readied his giant war hammer to attack Leviso, but then a hand grabbed his neck. He turned his head enough to see Vince, who was standing behind him, his hand firmly on his neck. "Vince, what are you doing?" Dale asked, panic evident in his speech. "Dale, I never did think of you as my teammate," he spoke, his voice cold and radiating malice. Before Dale could move, Vince's nails dug into his neck. Livio's watched as Dale's blood was absorbed into Vince's body. Leviso watched as the overweight Dale turned into a shriveled-up skeleton. Leviso watched as Vince began to change. His hair grew to his ankles, as his nail became sharp as daggers. His muscles began growing, barely being contained in his shirt. His eyes a crimson red, and his canines became longer. His daggers became long katanas of blood, as he sprouted wings of blood. "Did you just kill your own teammate?" Leviso asked. He began to feel his lunch coming up. That lout was never my teammate, merely a blood bag for my consumption," Vince declared, a maniac smile across his face. "Sephiroth looking motherfucker," Leviso mumbled under his breath. His instincts kicked in, as he brought his sword up, blocking a double overhead strike. The force of their blades clashing cratered the ground around them. "I'm gonna have fun ripping you apart, Serpent," Vince smirked. Leviso pushed Vince back, as he jumped backward to put distance between the two. Leviso barely was able to deflect a barrage of jabs from Vince's swords. Leviso jumped back again, much to Vince's anger. "Stop running, blood ball," he yelled, throwing a ball of blood toward Leviso at impossible speeds. Livio's barely dodged as his check was nicked, but the sphere sudden changed directions. It crashed into Livio's side, sending him skidding across the pavement. Leviso crashed hard into the vine-covered wall, but before he could get back up, Vince's foot crashed into his stomach. Leviso coughed up blood, muttering something about always getting the crazy bastards. Vince grabbed Leviso by his throat, lifting him up to eyes level. The smug smirk on his face sent anger through Leviso's entire body. "It was fun playing with you, Serpent, but I should really be getting to your queen," Vince spoke. Before Leviso could speak, he was hurried through the wall, before Vince sent an explosion of blood towards him. Vince smirked, admiring his hand's work, before starting to walk off. His body began to shift back to normal. "Damn, I used too much blood," he cursed. Vince stopped walking when he saw a bright blue light behind him. The sound of 1,000 birds chirping ranged throughout the stadium. Before Vince could react, a powerful bolt of lightning struck down Vince. his body went limp, as his body went limp. He tried to move his legs, but his fingers moved instead. I used my lightning to discombobulate your motor system, Leviso said, his eyes covered by shadows. But you won't live for much longer. Leviso vanished, before appearing in front of Vince. Leviso stabbed his sword into Vince's chest, as a brilliant blue light began to rip his body apart. Die, Leviso yelled, putting everything into this attack. Vince's body exploded with lightning, nearly causing Leviso to throw up. The serpent swiped away the blood from his weapon, before falling to a knee. Leviso was breathing heavily as he dragged himself to the wall. He laid against the vine-covered wall. With no strength left, he drifted into unconsciousness, as his body was covered in vines. Present. Medusa found herself in the waiting room of the stadium. Vines covered the floor, ceilings and wall, eliminating any form of light. Medusa disque, before closing and opening her eyes. She began to spread her magic thought the area, allowing her to get a feel for the area. While she couldn't see much, her snakes were able to. Her snakes scanned the area, ready picking up even the slightest movement. It was then that her snakes hissed, and a sudden shift in the air. Medusa quickly jumped back, narrowly avoiding a sword slash to her neck. Quick on her feet, Medusa began to narrowly avoided lightning-fast attacks, relying purely on instincts and her snake's warnings. She backfilled away, putting distance in between her and who her attacker was. Come out whoever you are, and face me you coward. Medusa heard a dark, feminine chuckled echo throughout the empty space. The chuckle came from all directions, causing a chill to run down Medusa's back. She jumped back, dodging another slash aimed at her throat. I can't sense her at all, and this room is abnormally dark, almost like a void, Medusa thought. Medusa's thoughts were interrupted, as she was forced to dodge another attack, which nicked the side of her uniform. Quick on her toes, Medusa dodged a flurry of strikes. Point. Medusa heard those words, as if they were echoing in her ear. Her vision went completely black, as her hearing vanished. She could no longer smell or communicate with snakes. It was as if she had lost all her sense. Another strike came, this time much faster and stronger. Medusa's body jerked in pain, as the skin on her right collarbone was torn into. Red blood sprayed everywhere, dripping down Medusa's arm. I can't see, smell, hear, or even taste the blood in my mouth, but Medusa's eyes scanned over the endless darkness. The pain I feel means I still have my sense of touch? Has she given up? The feminine voice asked herself, before grinning evilly. Then I'll make her feel to despair before I end her. Medusa closed her eyes and stood still. Her body relaxed as her breath slowed. Her fingers' muscles contracted, nails into daggers. She braced her body, preparing for the next attack. Medusa stood seemingly helpless as her attacker relentlessly ravaged her with brutal slashes. Medusa's blood began to stain the ground as her opponent ripped and tear her beautiful skin, but did she know, Medusa was adapting. Slowly, as to not be noticed, Medusa's body began to move, minimizing the damage as she began to remember her attacker's attack pattern. Man, this is getting boring, the voice said, after finishing another round of attack. Guess I should end this now. Medusa's breath slowed as her eyes slowly opened. It seemed as if time had slowed as she felt the cold blade impact her skin. Her body reacted like lightning. Medusa smirked as she felt her opponent's skin in her hands. Her eyes opened as she finally saw her opponent's face. Pale white skin, with dark circles under her eyes. Black eyes with demonic red splits. Her hair was a pale white that reached down to her waist. She wore a black slim dress, with armored shoulder guards and a breastplate. Black armored shoes and 2 bloody daggers. Medusa instantly recognized the girl as a vampire. How did you? The vampire stuttered out as she tired helpless to break Medusa's grip. It was then that the vampire began to feel something. Medusa's sharpened nails dug into her skin, unknowingly leaking a green liquid into the vampire's blood. Medusa's face morphed into a crazed grin. Half of Medusa's skin began to be covered in dark green scales, as her eyes glow a serpent green. Her fangs began long, and jagged as they leaked venom. The vampire's body shook as she realized what she was feeling. It was fear, the emotion she had been trying to have Medusa feel. You asked how I could figure out your ability. Well, it was simple. You only took away 4 of my senses and even my ability to sense mana, but you left me touch, coupled with your predictable attack pattern. It was only a matter of time before I caught you, the serpent smirked. Medusa raised her scaled-covered hand high, as her nails sharpened and became elongated. Medusa's hand came down fast and swift. Blood dripped on the floor as the vampire fell to the ground lifeless. Medusa's hand dripped red as she stood over the vampire's dead body. She heard footsteps and clapping. Her eyes whipped around to see a dark-skinned teen walked out of the shadows. The teen was tall, standing at 6'2", with dark brown skin. Black dreads, going to the back of his head, with 3 in the front of his head. He was shirtless, wearing only black cargo jeans. Golden gauntlet wrapped around each of his arms. His hair was still black, matching the black tattoos on his body. Akin to Izuku, multiple scars littered his body. Dangle earrings with the kanji dragon and slayer were imprinted on the earrings. His eyes were a fiery crimson, with black dots on the outer ends. A smirk was plastered on his handsome face. He smirked as he vanished and reappeared before Medusa. His hand raised to her face as a black fog erupted from his hand. Medusa's eyes widened as her vision turned black. Izuku was all she could whisper as she fell unconscious. Her body slumped down, only to be picked up by the mysterious teen. He slung her over his shoulder before picking up the vampire's body bridal style. "It seems you, Vince, and Dale have been defeated, Claire," the teen said, his voice full of somber. He placed his head on her chest and smiled when he felt a pulse. "Don't worry," he said. "Soon Izuku will remember us. I promise." Black smoke began to surround him as he and the girls vanished. With Izuku brought his spear up across his chest, blocking a strike from a large black broadsword, as big as a person. Izuku was pushed back as his feet slid across the floor of ground. Izuku jumped back, huffing and puffing as he tried to catch his breath. His opponent was a large man named Igor. He wore a large and bulky suit of black armor, including a helmet with a red feather. This bastard tough, more than his teammate. Izuku's eyes darted to the dead body that he had implanted into the wall. He's tough, but he's slow and predictable, plus his armor isn't that strong. One good hit from my spear should be all it take. "Oi, are you ignoring me?" the large man shouted as he charged at Izuku. Izuku readied himself as the man took off towards him, at impressive speed for a man his size. He appeared before Izuku, bring his sword down. Izuku smirked as he finally had his opening. His channeled lightning into his feet and spear as he whipped around, dodging the mighty sword. With a strong thrust and a burst of lightning, Izuku plunged his spear through Igor's armor and into his heart. As the large man fell to the ground, Izuku huffed and puffed. Blood leaked down his right bicep as he hadn't dodged the blade good enough. Finally catching his breath, Izuku limped over to wall. Beside for a bit of exhaustion and the shallow cut on right arm, he was in fighting condition. Izuku ripped off the top part of his uniform, taking deep breaths. Izuku's eyes scanned the area before landing on a butterfly. The butterfly flew across Izuku's vision before stopping dead in its tracks. Izuku instantly knew what was happening as he surged magic around him. Danger flooded Izuku's system as he instinctively jumped to the right. Almost instantaneously, a wave of destruction passed through where he stood just moments ago. Izuku's eyes widened as he saw the destruction left behind. Nothing was left behind but destroyed land, an overwhelming feeling of death. Izuku looked towards the source destruction, already know who it would be. True to his assumptions, he saw the same teen from earlier. His eyes widened in rage when he saw a bloodied Medusa in his arm. "Let her go, bastard!" Izuku screamed in rage as he blasted off toward him. With spear in hand, Izuku thrusted toward him, only for the figure to drop Medusa. Izuku quickly withdrew his spear and grabbed Medusa with his free hand. Catching Medusa, he spun around on his foot and threw his spear toward the mysterious teen. The teen TSK, as he sighed, was slashed by Izuku's spear. Izuku's as his spear crashed into the wall, creating a cloud of dust. Medusa, wake up, Izuku yelled as shock her. Izuku glared toward the teen. Don't worry Izuku, she's just unconscious, the teen said. Izuku slightly took the teen's words, standing up and turning his back towards the teen. He walked towards a vine-covered wall. He placed a kiss on Medusa's head before propping her against the wall. Vines covered her body before encasing her in vines. Pretty ballsy, turning your back to the enemy, the teen said, but Izuku said quite. Izuku slowly turned around as the sound of lightning began to crackle. Izuku's eyes crackled with lightning and burned with rage. Electric blue scale began to cover his body as his hair turned neon blue. First I have to deal with Ibara, then you hurt my brother, then you pull this shit, and now you've endangered the lives of my loved ones. As Izuku talked, his voice became progressively deeper, darker. I'm really starting to get pissed off. Izuku's voice crackled with lightning as his eyes turned blue. Seeing Medusa's ragged form has pushed Izuku over the edge. Now enraged, Izuku's power spirals out control. Who is this mysterious teen, and what past does he have with our protagonist? Stay tuned for the next chapter. Currently, I'll ask one time before we fight, Izuku said. How the hell are you, and why are you here? The teen laughed. I'm here to make you remember, he said, a smile. Izuku clenched his fist in anger, glaring toward the boy. You're really pissing me off? The teen began to float as a black aura surrounded him. The teen spread his arms and lowered his head. Black spheres began to form around him. For now call me Dragon, but let's see if this will jog your memory, brother. Leviso is my only brother, Izuku stated, cold and harshly. You hurt my feelings, brother. The spheres spun around the teen before shooting toward Izuku at amazing speeds. Izuku stood firm as a blue aura surrounded his hand. You thought something like this was enough to beat me, then you're sadly mistaken, our hero called out. A spear of lightning formed in Izuku's hands. As the spheres neared Izuku, he pivoted on his right foot and spun around. His lance moved like water, slashing the spheres like butter. The halved spheres exploded around Izuku, whose body flares with lightning. Interesting, brother. Dragon spoke, his smirk never leaving his face. My only brother is Leviso, now shut up, Izuku repeated. Izuku charged at the teen, who flew towards Izuku in response. Their fist clashed with hurricane-like winds erupting around. Dragon's smirk grew even more. Yes, you're quite powerful, my hero. Izuku growled as he stepped back. The serpent summoned a round spear of lightning to his hands and charged once again. Izuku swung his spear towards Dragon, but he brought his arm up, blocking it with his left arm. Come, hero, real men fight with their fist, Dragon said, aggravating Izuku. Dragon brought his right arm down like a blade, cutting Izuku's spear in half. Izuku quickly jumped back, but within an instant Dragon had already broken into his guard. Dragon's fist became covered in a black aura as his fist smashed into Izuku's face. Izuku's body soared backwards, smacking the wall of the stadium. He dazedly stood up, only to see a black sphere launch towards him. Impact was unavoidable, as Izuku was smashed through the stadium walls with a giant explosion. The smoke fell to reveal a bloodied hand Izuku, who had his arms crossed in X. So you managed to block that, Dragon chuckled, darkness sparking around him. Izuku dropped his hands as he shifted into an fighting stand. Izuku's eyes became trained on the foe in front of him, who smiled. Dragon dropped into his own stance, with the two waiting for the other to take a step. Pieces of debris fell, hitting the ground as the two charged towards each other. Izuku threw a hook, which Dragon ducked under. Dragon launched his right fist forward, slamming it into Izuku's side. Izuku grunted in pain, gritting his teeth. Izuku grabbed Dragon's hands, lifting the teen up and flipping him over his back. Dragon managed to stop Izuku's attack, planting his feet firmly on the ground. Dragon tried to drop down and sweep Izuku's legs, but Izuku vanished in a stream of blue. The teen stood up and quickly surveyed the area barely catching a glimpse of blue. A kick to his head sent the teen spiraling into a nearby wall. Izuku took this moment to catch his breath as he stared at where he kicked him. The rumble on top of the teen exploded in black aura. "Haha, this is more like it," Dragon yelled, giving a blood-stained smile. Blood rushed from the left side of Dragon's face as he gave a sicking grin. Dragon threw away his cloak, revealing a body branded with scars and tattoos. A muscular and lean build that'd take years to develop. His eyes blackened with golden pupils. Izuku looked at those scars with familiarity. It then hit him. Those scars, they were almost identical to him. Hypertrophic scars from explosion. Fractures from powerful kicks. Scars that could be only caused by extreme and precise levels of heat and frost. All thing that he had experienced. Izuku's head began to hurt as he caught flashes of a boy. Someone who was suffering alongside him. Someone who knew his pain. Memories flowed his head of a quirkless boy like him and a quirkless girl with white hair. Izuku shouted in pain, grabbing his head in pain. Izuku never noticed the teens appear in front of him. A sphere of black and gold was slammed into Izuku's chest. Izuku screamed in pain as he was smashed through the entrance of the stadium. Outside stadium, heroes, reporters, and citizens panicked around the outside of the stadium. A roar of destruction and a flashbang-like explosion caused everyone to duck in fear. A loud crash rang out as something smashed into a police car. "This is Tanio Takuda, from the Juzo News coming in from the Udata Sports Festival," he said, looking towards the cameraman. The camera pointed towards one of the smashed police cars. The sound of metal being thrown echoed as a figure arose from the smoke and ash. The figure was Izuku, bleeding, battered, and injured. He glanced towards the camera. Man giving him a panicked look. He mouthed the words "run" in desperation, but it was far too late. "Hey hero, the fights has only just began," a voice called out. Tanio stood in fear, seeing the black aura around the teen. Dragon looked at Tanio as if he was a bug. "You're not my hero," Dragon said, his voice full of disappointment. He raised his hand, creating a small sphere of darkness. He launched the sphere towards Tanio at blinding speeds. The sphere expanded to massive proportions within milliseconds of being launched. Tanio was petrified in fear, unable to move his shaking legs. He closed his eyes knowing his end was near, but it never came. He opened his eyes to see that the sphere was gone, and that the area beside him was destroyed. In front of him stood a teen, no older than 15, with lightning cracking around his body. In his hands was a spark, made from lightning, that seemed to have wind surrounding it. Tanio felt an aura of protection coming from the teen. "Who are you?" he asked in a shaken voice. When Izuku turned around, Tanio could feel a wave of safety wash over him. Even with tattered clothing, scars littering his body, and blood flowing from many wounds, Tanio felt a peace. "Hey news guy, make sure to catch this one camera," Izuku said grinning. Izuku threw away his spear, dropping into his serpent stance. Dragon stared at Izuku for a moment for showing his evil grin. "Are you still fighting?" Tanio asked in disbelief, causing Izuku to smile. "It's simple," Izuku said. "It's a hero's job to save those in danger, and that's exactly what I'm doing." "Haha, you really are the same hero from before," Dragon chuckled. "I don't know how you know me, but whatever past we have is over," Izuku said with a deadly glare. Dragon stiffened at Izuku's words. Izuku felt another headache as more images flooded through his mind. Suddenly his eyes became blurry as images flooded through his mind. Flashback 5 years. 2 kids, who seemed to be around 10 years old, stood helplessly with their backs against the wall. A group of 4 surround the 2. The first kid was a boy with curly black hair and onyx black eyes. His skin was chocolate brown. The boy's body had multiple bruised and scratches on his skins. The girl had pale white skin, almost like a vampire, and red blood eyes. "Leave her alone," the boy yelled, jumping in front of the girl. "Why are you doing this to us?" the girl screamed. "Freaks like you don't belong in society," a ash-blonde kid said. "And what give you the right to say that?" the dark-skinned boy said. "It's because we have powers, and you don't," an ash-blonde girl said simply, standing next to her brother. These two kids were the Bakugo twins, picking on another group of weak kids. You can't just use your powers to hurt people, the pale girl yelled from behind her friend. Why can't we? Who's gonna stop us? Katsuki grinned. Beside, who's gonna care if we hurt a girl like you when you have a villain's quirk? Katsumi said. The two began charging, an explosion in their hands. The two kids cowered in fear as Katsuki and Katsumi got ready to launch their explosions. Before the twins could launch their explosive, they were tackled to the ground by a green-haired boy. Follow me, run, the boy yelled as he ran away. The boy and girls looked at each other before following their green-haired savior. Katsuki and Katsumi got up dazed. They looked around for their targets, but couldn't find them. Damn it, where'd they go? The twin yelled in unison. With our escapees. The two teens followed the green-haired boy till they arrived at a small forest. Once far enough in, the three fell over panting. Should be safe, the green-haired boy said, through gasp of air. Yes, thank you, the dark-skinned boy asked. Thank you, the girl shyly said. No problems, the boy said. We Blasians gotta stick together, am I right? The green-haired boy said, smiling as he offered a fist bump. My name's Alexander Draco, and she's Dampire, the now-known Alexander said. Thank you as well, Dampire said, shyly from behind Alexander. No problems, my name's Izuku Yagi, Izuku said, as the two boys fist bumped. Well then Izuku, how about the three of us be friends? Dampire said, sticking her head out from behind Alexander. I don't know if we can be friend, Izuku said, his hand hanging, and his voice losing its spark. With Izuku's reaction, the two took step back, as they took in his appearance. Izuku's clothes were ragged, with rips, holes and tears. His hair, while long reaching to his neck, was dirty with clumps of dirt and clumps of hair. Scars littered his arms and legs, some being more gruesome than others. The biggest change the two noticed was his eyes. The bright green eyes he had once showed them had morphed into an black abyss without warmth. To them Izuku looked like a corpse walking. I'm sorry, but if you become friends with me you'll be bullied even more, Izuku said, his voice shaken. Katsuki and Katsumi won't stop at just bullying you, they make every day a living hell. They'll target you and get others to do it too. They'll isolate you from everyone else, to the point where you feel invisible, Izuku said, his voice trembling in fear, and his words sounding misconstrued. Alexander and Dampire could feel the fear and panic in Izuku's words. Izuku's body began to shake as he back-hit against a tree. Izuku began to hyperventilate, unable to calm down his rapidly beating heart. Alexander's mind went blank, unable to process what was going on. The guy who had just saved him, and seems brave and courageous, was now on the ground cowering in fear. Dampire, I don't think we shall dash. Alexander was cut off by Dampire moving from behind him. Dampire bent down towards Izuku, his red eyes gazing into his. Izuku didn't even register her presence in his panicked state. Izuku's body felt a foreign, yet warm sensation around him. Suddenly he felt another wave of this sensation warm around him. His panic state began to fade away as he opened his eyes. When he opened his eyes, saw that Alexander and Dampire were hugging him. Tears began to fall out his eyes, as for the first time in years, he felt the warm embrace of someone who cares. For the first time in years, Izuku had felt the warm embrace of someone who cared from him. You don't have to feel alone, because we'll help thought this, Dampire said. Boo. But your sob, targeted too, Izuku said through sobs and tears. That doesn't matter, we'll just have to have each other backs, Alexander said. This only made Izuku cry even more. The feeling of have people willing to support him had become so lost to the boy, that feeling it now was overwhelming. In this moment Izuku vowed that he'd protect them, as for now he felt as if he had someone with him. Izuku wasn't sure how much time had passed, as he had passed out in their arms, but when he awoke it was night. Izuku saw that the two of them had fallen asleep, their arms still tight around him. I swear that I'll protect you too, no matter what, Izuku vowed, looking up to the moonlit sky. A bright flash followed by what seemed to the scene-shattering light glass crossed the reader's view, as this flashback ended. Flashback and Izuku's eyes became filled with tears, as he fell down to his knees. His head felt as if a sledgehammer was smashing into his head repeatedly. Memories of him, Alexander, and Dampire began to flood forcefully in his mind. Memories of them suffering at the hands of Izumi's and friends. Izuku looked at him, his head tilted sideways and tears falling down his face. The scars littering his body mirrored the scars on Izuku's body. He knew that without a doubt this was Alexander. "Oh, Alexander," Izuku asked, his voice shaky. "It's took you long enough, hero," Alexander said, his tone dreadful. Why are you doing this?" Izuku asked, finally managing to compose himself. Why should I stop when these heroes allowed for this to happen to me, to us?" Alexander yelled out. "What are you talking about, Alexander?" Izuku yelled out. "Have you forgotten, Izuku? No more like the memories were suppressed," Alexander said. "What are you talking about? Remember what?" Izuku said, but at that moment his heart started hurting again. "So whatever they used to block your memories is breaking," Alexander stated. "Alex, what happened to you?" Izuku said. "What happened to me, huh? The real question is why aren't you on my side?" Alexander said. "Izuku, I plan to eliminate this hero system and rebuild it into one that doesn't discriminate between quirked and quirkless people," Alexander said. "Izuku, I'll make a world where what happened to us will never happen again. A world where heroes won't ignore us again, and quirkless people can live freely," Alexander stated, looking at Izuku. "And this is how you do it, Izuku yelled. "Attacking festivals full of innocent men, women, and children, is this how you want to create a new world?" Izuku asked. "You may be right, maybe this wasn't the best way to start off this world's destruction, but it's necessary to start with a bang," Alexander said with a smirk at the end. Izuku looked at Alexander and shook his head. When he looked at Alexander, all he could do is see was he could have turned into. "So is this what I could have become? I see," Izuku thought to himself. Izuku looked at Alexander one more times, as his mind began to process everything. In the moment Izuku felt happiness to see his friend, sadness to know he had lost him at some point, confusion as to what happened to his memories, anger at what his friend has become, and lastly, he accepted what his friend had become. "Alexander, leave this path and join me," Izuku said, extending his hand his friend. Alexander began laughing in Izuku's face, even whipping a tear from his eyes. "Hero, don't you see, it's already too late to go back," Alexander said, a wicked smile on his face. A dark energy pulsated around Alexander's body, the vegetation around him dying in an instant. Instinctively Izuku took a step back, gripping his lance. "The suffering I went through to obtain this power made me realize something," Alexander said. "And what was that?" Izuku asked. "It made me realize that power was everything in this world, and that's as long as I'm the strongest this world would bend to my will," Alexander stated, his eyes locking with Izuku. "So that's why you became stronger, so that you can use your power to hurt others?" Izuku said. "No, I became stronger to protect the weak and the innocent. Even if my ways are flawed, I see this as the only way," Alexander stated. "So your logic is flawed but still decide to walk down this path?" Izuku asked, to which he received a nod from Alexander. "I can't let you go through with that, Alex," Izuku said, his magic surging. "You'll be the one to defeat me. I haven't even began to show you the depth of my power," Alexander said with a cocky smirk. "In order to protect this world and the millions of innocents you claim to protect, I'll have to put an end to you, Alexander," Izuku stated, stabbing his spear into the ground. Lightning crackled around Izuku as his royal blue magic erupted around him. His spear blade expanded with a blue aura now surrounded it as well. Lightning crackled from Izuku's body as him and Alexander's eyes narrowed at each other. The ground under each other them cracked as they launched towards each other at dashing speed. A giant great sword of darkness formed in Alexander's hands. The two swung their weapons towards each other, determined to end at each other with this last attack. Black Dragon Slash, King Serpent Thrust. The two screamed out their attacks as they got ready to clash with each other. The two threw away all feelings of regret, anger, sadness, confusion, panic, and fear. The two were prepared to die with these attacks. Alexander swung his swords down towards Izuku, who thrusted his spear toward Alexander. As Izuku thrusted his spear towards Alexander, he felt another person's presence. Suddenly, Izuku felt a familiar sinister presence behind him. Vine binding. As soon as Izuku heard those words, he felt vines warp around his body, locking him in place. Shocked, Izuku watched as Alexander's sword moved in slow motion towards him. Unable to escape from the vines in time, Izuku gathered all his magic and used it to shield himself from Alexander's attack. As the Alexander's sword came down, Izuku looked him in the eyes and was shocked. The crazed, demonic look he had before their clash was replaced with one of shame and sadness. But his swift and mood didn't stop the attack. The sword struck Izuku with tremendous force, shattering through this magic and the vines holding him. Izuku screamed in pain as Alexander's evil magic ripped through his body and cut across his chest. Izuku was sent flying into the wall of the sports stadium, carried by a slash of darkness from Alexander's sword. Alexander landed on the ground and looked at Izuku. Izuku's had blood bleeding from his white-filled eyes. His entire chest was bloodied, and has had numerous deep slashes along his body. Even with these injuries, the most serious one was Izuku's insides. "It looks like the little serpent is down," Alexander heard a woman's voice say from behind him. Alexander swung his swords immediately towards the voice, stopping mere inches away from the woman's neck. "Ibra," Alexander hiss. "Alexander the Shadow Dragon, it's been a while," Ibra said, a close-eye smile on her face. "Ibra, what did you do it, and don't play dumb with me?" Alexander asked. "Why'd I do what?" Ibra asked, her smile never fading. "Why'd you hold him down?" Alexander barked in rage. "Oh come on Alex, we both know that attack would have done some serious damage," she said, with a sly smirk. "And we both know how much of a pain in the ass I'd be to take over this world if you damaged," she said, eyeing Alexander. "Ibra, next time you interrupt one of my fights I'll personally end you," Alexander stated. "Ha, as if," she laughed. "You need me to take over this world, and I need you to take over Beast World, so basically we're locked in together regardless of how you feel," she said, getting face to face with Alexander. "That means that if I can't see you ending a battle without serious injuries, I'll step in," Ibra stated. Before Alexander could refute this, she disappeared, leaving him alone in the battlefield. Alexander yelled in rage, but suddenly felt a blast of water and electricity hit him. Alexander turned around to see that he was surrounded by random heroes. "Surrounded now, kid, before we have to hurt you," a flame hero said. "Hurt me, I should be the one saying that," Alexander laughed. "Fire, take him down," the hero yelled. Before the heroes could attack, Alexander stomped his foot on the ground. Immediately after stomping his foot, black spikes erupted from the ground, cutting the heroes. Alexander took one last look at the blood-filled area, and lately at Izuku. "I'm sorry. It had to be like this, but this is the path I've decided, Izuku," Alexander said, and with that he vanished in a swirl of black smoke, fading away into nothingness. Izuku fell from the wall, laying in a pool of his own blood. His limb felt as if they were being led down, and his body was in excruciating pain. As much as he tried to fight away the fatigue and damage, his body fell subject to exhaustion as he passed out where he lay. Izuku Yagi was a sweet little boy born with green hair and brown skin. Izuku loved his sister Izumi.
Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.